All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios. I'm sorry, scratch that. The Starcade Media Studios. Something I'm still getting used to. But my guys, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 188, full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTubing. We want to thank you so much for being here with us in this time because, man, this is a week for you to be here with us. I want to thank all the Chiefs fans that have been a part of this. Got a whole new fan base that's going to be paying attention today because I was on a show last night up there in the Buffalo region, the Buffalo Fanatics, with my guy Rico at the Rico Report, and I had myself an absolute blast. I hope while you're watching this, obviously stay with us, but if you get time, go ahead and subscribe to his channel on YouTube, subscribe to their stuff on Twitter and everywhere else. You find them on Facebook. Had an incredible time to talk to them and had a great conversation. If you want to go and look that up on YouTube as well, you can find that and have a full conversation. I even talk about what I dip my wings in. It was a very precise conversation. But while you're here with us as well, if you've not done it already, go ahead and hit us up on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We have had a lot of growth there, man, over the last couple of weeks, and we hope to see that continue. We appreciate all the support that you guys have been here with us. But again, the conversations have been awesome this week, man. It's been this feels like football season has really kicked off. You know, we're at the end. We've already gone through 1 month of the season. We're now really in that deep October time where teams are really starting to figure out who and what they are, and the Chiefs are facing some truly worthy opponents, and I cannot wait to get to all that, man. We're going to obviously get to the Eddie Hour. We're going to hold out some L's like we do every single week. Our guy Shaggy Shane from the Shaggy Shane Show, Arrowhead Allies, Starcade Media in general. This is a man that does a lot of work, and he's one of my best friends. He's an OG Chiefs fan. He's going to be joining us momentarily as well to talk and break down all things Chiefs versus Bills. But I want to start first and foremost with some thoughts on what we witnessed this last Monday night at Arrowhead, Chiefs versus Raiders. This is a game that Trevor, Eddie, and I all expected the Chiefs to score a ton of points in and basically just continue their domination of their children known as the Las Vegas Raiders. And I want to do something different with this particular conversation, because I think there were two different things going on at once in this game. There was the play on the field between two teams, and then there was the officiating. And I don't want to mesh them up together. I want to talk about both of them in an individual format, because I think they both deserve the equal amount of attention, because both played a significant factor in how this game went and almost exactly how the game ended. So I want to start with how the Chiefs and Raiders played each other in this particular matchup. You saw the way the Chiefs came into this game, and I was anticipating the Chiefs are going to come out there playing very electric football, lively football, wanted to kind of treat it the same way they did the Cardinals game in week 1, where they go out there, they put a beat down on an inferior opponent quickly, and that way they kind of coast and get ready for a much bigger, much more important game the next week on a short week, a lot like they did again with the Cardinals with the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. And that's the opposite of what we saw. What we saw was the Chiefs come out there and play very lethargic. It looked like they weren't very focused. It looked very undisciplined. The offense wasn't clicking very well. They weren't getting much out of the run game. We saw Isaiah Pacheco get one rush, got, I think, 0 yards on the rush, and it looked like one of those nights where we know now, we've seen Andy Reid's teams here for 10 years, and we know that there's just sometimes they have these games where it's like, damn it, they're going to play like this all night, aren't they? I mean, they might squeak out the victory, but it's going to be one of those frustrating nights when it shouldn't be a frustrating night. The Chiefs are just clearly the better team. But that's exactly how we saw this team come out. The defense was getting gashed in the run game, which is something we have not seen all season long. We've talked about it, how the defense coming into this week hadn't had really a bad drive all season. And we saw Josh Jacobs really establishing that run game. It looked like the Raiders were clicking on all cylinders. Davante Adams in one-on-ones with rookie cornerbacks. I was getting very frustrated very fast in this game because I felt like the Chiefs really went out there and looked like they were just overlooking the Raiders and looking into the Bills' week. That's definitely what it looked like. And it was very frustrating to see because I expected better out of the Chiefs. And then you saw the Raiders, like I said, you saw Derek Carr really utilizing the middle of the field, getting opportunities on third downs, fourth downs even. You saw the way the Raiders weren't respecting the Chiefs' defense. And that was, again, a very frustrating experience for me in the beginning of the game. And then you saw in the second half, the Chiefs' offense, for obvious reasons that we're going to talk about in a minute, came alive. And it was inevitable. It felt inevitable. It felt like, okay, eventually the Chiefs are going to find their gear. They're going to click into it. They're going to shift, and they're going to put a beat down on the Raiders in the second half. That's exactly what happened, because as bad as they were in the first half offensively, they became great in the second half. And I'm not going to pat myself on the back here. No, I'm going to pat myself on the back here because I said last week that Travis Kelce was going to have an historic game. I said he was going to have 3 touchdowns in this game. Little did I know he was even going to surpass my expectation and my prediction with a 4-touchdown game. And it's one of the weirdest games I've ever seen from a receiving player, because we've seen guys throughout history have 4+ touchdowns in a game, 4 receiving touchdowns, but they always have like 136 receiving yards. They 11 to 15 receptions.
I think the lowest was like 86.
Right. Historically, even it's way better than what he had. He had 25 receiving yards in this game.
Well, like Gabe Davis's game against us last year.
Right.
It's like
200 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that makes sense. Like, okay, when you have, 19 yards per reception, you're probably going to have that kind of game. No, Travis Kelce had like 6.5, 7 yards per reception in this game. And it was one of the most unique games ever because it was more of a Gronk-style game for Travis. Because Gronk has always been more of a red zone monster, where he gets hit a lot in the red zone, gets a lot of touchdown opportunities, whereas Travis Kelce's been more of a possessions receiver, a guy that's getting you in the middle of the field to get you in field goal range and then get you into the red zone. Well, that was the opposite of this game. Travis Kelce was everything that Patrick Mahomes ever needed in this game. It almost didn't matter if anybody else was on the field. Travis Kelce was open all night long. The Raiders had no answer for him. It was historically dominant. And again, I was expecting Travis to have a game like this, but I didn't expect him to have 4 damn touchdowns, all 4 of Patrick Mahomes' touchdowns in this game. So I want to give Travis Kelce a lot of credit in that one, because that was just, it was one of the most unique games I had ever seen. But something else that I wanted to point out in this game is it's something that I feel that it should be given more credit. And it's the fact that 2 guys on the defense that I want to give a lot of praise to from the Chiefs. And they played humongous in the second half, even though there was things that happened in the first half that could have very much gotten in their head and made things worse for them as this game went on, is Chris Jones and Nick Bolton. Chris Jones in this game was unbelievably great. Even when he was being held, even when horrific penalties were being put on him, this man was in the backfield all night long. And we know that the Raiders defense or Raiders offensive line is not good. So that's the kind of game Chris Jones needs to have. But he had it. And you got to give him credit as a veteran player who we don't know what his future is going to hold here in Kansas City or elsewhere after this season, because he's got a massive cap hit next year. He's going to be 29 years old next season. Are the Chiefs going to extend a guy that's past 28? We know how their little rule that they have out there in Kansas City about extending veterans like that. But nevertheless, this man's earning his paycheck for the next 4 or 5 years. As long as he wants to play football, he's going to get paid because of a season like this. And then Nick Bolton, I talked about him on the Bills Fanatic or Buffalo Fanatics. I talked about him on the Chief Concern podcast. This man is one of the most underrated defensive players in this league today. He is already, to me, one of the 10 best linebackers in football. That is not hyperbolic. If you look at the way this man is playing football, he looks like a 7-8 year veteran, and he's only in his second season. Yep. He's only played 1.5 years in this league, not even 1.5 years in totality. And this guy looks like he is one of the best in the game at what he does. And he played insanely well, even on the 4th and 1 play where Derek Carr threw the Hail Mary pass that Hunter Renfrow ran right into Davante Adams. He laid Derek Carr out far worse than any other penalty we saw all week.
He just shoved him. He
just absolutely blew him up. And I thought for a second they're going to throw that fucking flag because it was such a good hit and he blew up Derek Carr. I'm thinking, shit, I can already see it. They're going to put him right in field goal range. And no, that did not happen. And I got to give Spagnuolo some credit because I was crushing Steve Spagnuolo in the first half because, as I told Jason Dunn and Marcus Dash at Chief Concern podcast postgame show, I thought that Spag set up his defense for failure in that first half. I felt like putting Jalen Watson and a horrifically struggling Rashad Fenton. I know he's dealing with injuries, won't play this week against the Bills. Probably a good thing for the Chiefs, too. You're putting them on one-on-ones against Davante Adams? What in the literal hell are you thinking? That is the opposite of what you should be doing against the greatest receiver in the game. And it got exposed early and often in this game. And I will defend Jalen Watson in one regard because there was a horrific penalty in the end zone against him that was not on him. And we'll talk about this again. We'll talk about this in a second. Yeah. But still, Jalen Watson and Rashad Fenton were doing all that they could, but they're no match to Devontae Adams. No one is one-on-one. Jalen Ramsey will get cooked against Devontae Adams one-on-one, but that's the best you can possibly put out there to put against Devontae Adams one-on-one. So I did not like Steve Spagnuolo's first half decision, but in the second half, you saw immediately, if you're going to put anybody one-on-one against Devontae Adams, who better than Lord Jarius Sneed? And he put that lock on him in the third quarter. I don't think Devontae Adams had a single catch in the third quarter. And Sneed...
I think he only had...
Well, I think it was one catch.
One catch the whole second half.
Now, he was getting targeted, but you're right. I think that you saw Sneed put the clamps on him. Yeah, he put the clamps on him. Sneed played another amazing game. I should just throw him into the equation as well as far as the three defenders that played well. But yes, these guys put the clamps down. I got to give, as much as I criticize him for the first half, I'm going to praise him for the second half for making those second half adjustments. Karlaftis was getting in the backfield again. He's not getting those sacks, but you see him knocking at the door, and eventually that door is going to fall down. And he's knocking at it. I'm proud of him for what he did. It sucks that, because I said one of the key players in this game that I had was Turk Wharton, and he ends up going out with an ACL tear. Yeah, that's just terrible for the team, terrible for Turk. I wish him nothing but best. Hopefully he can get back this next season. I don't know what his contract situation is going to be, but it really sucks to lose a guy like that who's just a solid piece and key asset. But Colin Saunders played incredible in his replacement, and I'm really proud of seeing those guys step up and put the clamps down on that Raiders offense in the second half. Now, I do want to move to the officiating because this is the most important part in my opinion. And I really hate being the guy that has to talk about refs because I don't want to ever have to be the guy that sits here and says on our platform, that refs can decide games. But it's becoming more and more apparent in the NFL in particular that is becoming more and more a thing, where games are getting decided by the way officiating is officiating games. Look at the Bucks and Falcons game. Maybe the Falcons don't score on that drive if they were to get that ball. There was 3 minutes left in the game. They sacked Tom Brady on a 3rd and 5 in the middle of the field. The Bucks would have to punt, and the Falcons were rolling at that time. They had all the momentum on their side. Yep. But they all went away on a horrific roughing the passer penalty that did not exist. And by the way, Tom Brady ended up getting fined for that play for kicking Grady Jarrett and trying to kick him in the dick. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, twice, multiple times. And one of them, he landed. He actually landed one of the kicks earlier in that drive on another 3rd down play that Tom Brady got bailed out on. Impressive. So we're seeing officiating putting their stamp on games significantly. And now we can talk about this with Carl Cheffers, who, by the way, I don't know how he's allowed to ever officiate in this league again. He was god-awful in this game. Even non-Chiefs fans, people, we obviously have a horse in this race because we're Chiefs fans. But even people that have no connection whatsoever were saying all week long that the Chris Jones roughing the passer penalty was the single worst roughing the passer penalty they've ever seen. That's including the Grady Jarrett sack on Tom Brady. Yeah. Because this one didn't even make sense. Let's say that Chris Jones roughed the passer. The ball was in Chris Jones's possession, which means that Derek Carr is no longer a passer. He's a defender at that point. So you can fall on him, you can DDT him, do whatever you want to do. The fact is the ball was in the Chiefs' possession, so it no longer was eligible for that type of penalty. I understand that Carl Cheffers couldn't see it from the back end, but you review those plays, you talk to your other officials, and if they saw the ball come out, because they did rule the Chiefs had the ball initially, the flag gets thrown, everything is therefore a moot point. That is a play that could have literally cost the Chiefs that game. And not even that play, you talk about earlier, Derek Carr's so famous for these 50-50 arm punt balls that he threw up to Devontae Adams in the back of that end zone. Jalen Watson perfectly played. He could not have played that better. I know he could have turned his head around, but he's right there, not even making contact with Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has to correct his body, stop his momentum, and try to go forward to the ball because the ball was bad, and he rips Jalen Watson down to the ground, and somehow that's DPI. Yeah. That play put the Raiders on the 1-yard line, got them a rushing touchdown the very next play, and then again, the Chris Jones roughing the passer put them in field goal range at the end of the first half. That gives them a field goal. That's 10 points they were spotted. And this game ends up being 30-29. That game should have been a double-digit victory for the Chiefs, even with the consideration of how bad they played in that first half, because the Chiefs didn't have a good first half. But they still should have won this game comfortably. And if it wasn't for the way Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce played in that second half, if it wasn't for Chris Jones Jones still buckling down, if it wasn't for Nick Bolton and L'Jarius Sneed doing what they do, the Chiefs lose this game, and it would have been because of officiating. So all in all, this game was a very frustrating game, did not need to be this close, but I can't even crush the Chiefs as much as I would love to do for them not playing good football, because the entire focus and takeaway of this game wasn't what happened between the two teams. It was about two other things. Carl Sheffers being absolute dog shit in a hat, and Devontae Adams assaulting a cameraman after the game because he was pissed off. So those are my two biggest takeaways of this game, is that it sucks that the greatest quality product that we have in American sports has to be talked about in a negative light for unnecessary reasons. It'd been one thing if the teams just suck. We crushed the Niners and the Broncos. We crushed the Commanders and the Bears for having horrible games. And that's fair, and we could talk about those things. But we couldn't even do that because, again, the focus was about everything outside of the players. That's beyond frustrating. You know it's bad when Andy Reid is sitting there at halftime, not even going back into the tunnel, and is chewing out Carl Sheffers mercilessly. Andy Reid's one of the nicest dudes on the planet, and he's over there just murdering this dude, berating him. That's how you know that the league is aware of the problem they have. But the problem we have, though, is that John Perry, ESPN's head official guy that talks about things and breaks things down like Mike Pereira does for Fox, was sitting there doubling down and saying that Carl Sheffers made the right choice. So the problem we have here in the league is that the people at the top are the ones that are defending this type of ridiculousness. So we don't really have a hope here, guys, because after Tua and what he did, after what happened to Tua Tagovailoa, the league is overcorrected here, and it's at the cost of the quality and integrity of the game because defenders have no hope. You can't even touch the quarterback unless you're Max Crosby and headbutt Patrick Mahomes or whip them around and throw them on the ground. That's okay. Or Justin Fields getting sacked 5 times and getting pile driven into the ground. No penalties on those. But if you're Tom Brady or Derek Carr or anybody else pale complected, you should be okay. You should get the flag. But that is just beyond a frustrating situation we have here. I'm terrified about it because, as people have been talking about all week long, what if this costs a team a playoff game? What if a team gets hot at the end of the season and they get absolutely jobbed by one of these type of calls and their season's done because of it? It's a very real possibility, guys. So I want to get your guys' takeaways of what you saw in the game from the teams, and I want to get your guys' overall thoughts on the officiating.
Yeah, I just want to say Karlaftis did get a half sack.
Did he? Okay.
So he is on the board.
0.5, baby.
So
0.5.
He's on his way, people. And he can add to that this coming week as well. And I do want to give credit to MVS and McCole made a couple big plays, and obviously McKinnon. Juju had a couple nice catches here and there too. MVS did have a nasty drop that was a little unforgivable. He was by himself. Could have been a touchdown if there was a lot of green behind him if he caught that ball. And that was damn near in the red zone when he dropped that one. So he's got to get better at that. But he played really well. His connection with Mahomes continues to grow. I like seeing that. One of these receivers got to get going, man, because there's only 2 receivers so far 5 weeks into the year that have scored, and it's McCole and it's Watson. So we got to get these receivers involved. I want to see Juju get his eventually, but good to see those guys kind of get the ball. And McCole looked pretty good and spry. I think he's been dealing with ankle or whatever, so he's looking pretty good. Good to see that. But yeah, overall this game was it was a tale of two halves pretty much. Arrowhead was rocking, man. We could hear it through the TV. I wasn't there, but I know a lot of people that were there. And that's the loudest, most raucous crowd I've heard in a long time. Man, it sounded like a legitimate playoff game. But yeah, man, I mean, the situation with the roughing the passer call is it definitely feels like an overcorrection with the Tua situation, which doesn't make sense to me because, I mean, anybody at any moment in this game could get concussed. You know what I mean? The quarterbacks aren't I would say quarterbacks are the least likely to get concussed of all players in the field. Maybe them and maybe a cornerback, but most of the time when those guys are out there playing in the actual scrum of the game, quarterbacks are already the most protected. They get hit most likely the least out of all these guys. These guys are all making contact every single play more than quarterbacks ever are during the duration of a 60-minute game. Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense for these defenders to have to change the way they tackle one player and tackle everyone else the same outside of the court. It's you can't do that. And what me as a realist and purist of the sport, it's a violent game by nature, and they're trying to take the violence out of the game. You just can't. It's a violent game. This is a full contact sport. Right. Every one of these guys, regardless of what we think about quarterbacks, they're football players. They're all football players. They sign up and they make hundreds of millions of dollars. Especially quarterbacks are making hundreds of millions of dollars for what they signed up for, and they know that there's a risk. Alex Smith knew there was a risk that something like that could happen to him, and it happened. Joe Theismann. Anybody who's had a major injury knows that there's a good chance that could happen. You know what I mean? And everyone, we've seen numerous times over and over again, all these stories of like the after effects of the game. They all know that they signed up for that. You know what I mean? We all as adults make decisions. If I take a very dangerous like construction type of job and I sign up for it, I sign that contract. But I'm getting paid handsomely. I know the risk because I'm getting paid for that risk. It's a choice, right? I mean, so there's got to be some leeway here for these. I mean, the way Chris Jones tackled Derek Carr was textbook.
Yep.
He took the ball from him. Obviously, he was the ball carrier at that point when he took the ball from him. But the way he landed on Carr, he didn't even land all of his weight entirely. He rolled. He was like rolling off of him as he landed on him. So I mean, he had the ball in the hand he was trying to like leverage with. There's literally nothing else Chris Jones could have done. That is very frustrating, especially the fact that Chris Jones has been on the wrong side of these calls numerous times in his career in big moments, in big games. You know what I mean? So this being the least big a game, but it's still like a rivalry kind of game. And the way that the game was going, we were already struggling offensively, and we were getting points put on us. So that was a pivotal play that could have really changed and took points off the board for the Raiders, but ended up putting points on the board for the Raiders, which is very unfortunate and can sway the momentum of a game very quickly and get very ugly quickly. But I'm glad the Chiefs overcame that. And I gotta say though, man, I'm very, very frustrated with our offensive line. I don't understand why you need to get your ass chewed out at halftime by your quarterback to go out there and play better. Yeah. I don't understand why you need the external insults from another player from the opposing team from Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get up for that game. You know what I mean? Like it's the inconsistency of this O-line and the talent that we have. Orlando, I'm this close to being done with Orlando Brown, if I'm being honest. I know he played well in that second half. He definitely got better, but he can't defend the speed rush. If there's a fast rusher off the edge, he's getting beat 9 times out of 10. Sometimes he can recover. Sometimes Pat will make it look better than it was and evade that pressure because Pat's so good at evading pressures and extending plays. But if this guy thinks he's going to be paid like a top 5 left tackle in this league, he's dreaming. He's already getting paid handsomely this year with the tag. The tag is a nice payday. But I'm not sold, and this is why I wasn't sold from the beginning. I like him. I really like him. I hope he can get better, but he lost all the weight. He was in the best shape of his career. But I'm not seeing it yet. And there's a lot of improvement that needs to be done on his side. Wiley tried the best he could. I mean, he's only so good. He's not. The expectations are far less high on him than we have for Orlando Brown. But I am pretty close to being just like kind of over Orlando Brown, me personally. Just from what I'm seeing, he just can't. He's good at pretty much everywhere else, but the speed rush is what's getting him. He's just getting destroyed off that edge. So I need to see more from the offensive line. I need to see them get motivated just from them. Just get up for a game for you to be a good unit. Not have to get your asses chewed out, not have to have a slow start. Go out there and have a good game consistently. It feels like a week by week what to expect, and it makes me nervous every week because not only do I want them to be great to get a running game going, but also to protect Pat. That first half, Pat was just running for his life. It looked like that Super Bowl a couple years ago, against the Bucs. He was just constantly under pressure. Yeah. It's the Raiders. I mean, I know Max Crosby is arguably the best pass rush in the league this year. He's got 5 sacks, or 5 or 6 sacks. He's on a roll this year, but. Overall, the game, I mean, we pulled it out, man. It was a 1-point victory. I don't think any of us expected it to be that close. I expected a competitive game just because we typically have those with the Raiders. We end up pulling away most of those games. But I mean, they played us well. They had some fortunate calls go their way. Things changed towards the other side once we kind of gained our momentum. But it was funny seeing Jeffers out there struggling to call those calls when he was this shaky voice, and he was shook after Andy Reid ripped his ass.
First down flag.
He was shook after that halftime.
It's Andy like Aaron Neville out there.
So yeah, that was my main thing was this O-line. I need them to, because when they're going, we are unstoppable, bro. Yep. We saw that again. Look at what we did to the Bucs. What we did that second half against the Raiders. When you can protect Pat and you can give him time, it doesn't matter who's running routes. Pat's going to find whoever is out there, bro. We've seen him ball out with Albert Wilson at times. We've seen him it doesn't matter. Chris Conley in the back of the end zone. Nobody's special. Patrick's special himself, so he's going to make plays. Just got to give him time, man. And when you get that running game going, when Jerick McKinnon got that 30-yard scamper, that opens up the offense and that gives that boost of confidence for this offense. So, in order for that to happen, we got to win in the trenches, right? So, defensive line put it together in the second half, started getting good pressure. And the offensive line started to protect him for Pat in that second half. That was what changed the game for me. When both of those sides are rolling, we're winning in the trenches. There's no stopping this team. I don't care who we're facing. So I need to see that continue on a consistent basis for me, in order for us to have any kind of real confidence in my mind, knowing that we can compete with whoever's on the other side. Because this game was far too competitive for me. I felt like it should have been a much more lopsided game talent wise. I knew Devontae was going to get his. He's that great of a guy. Carr throws a good ball. There was a couple insane balls that Derek Carr, and that touchdown he threw over the middle was insane. Yeah. Great ball. So I knew he was going to get his, but other than that, I mean, this game should have been far less competitive than it was. So I'm glad we pulled it out, though.
Before I say my stuff, we got a couple comments from Starcade Media. First one is MVS is a career 50% catcher, so only one drop was impressive from him in that Raiders game with the difficulty of some of those. And he did have some good catches.
Yeah, he's coming alive, man. I'm loving seeing it.
I called him, man. I said MVS was going to go off this week against the Raiders.
His last 2 weeks, he's had a few catches each game. So
yeah, Patrick and him have really connected the last 2 weeks.
Then the second was they didn't fully understand back in the day, talking about the concussions and all that stuff. They didn't fully understand back in the day, and that was the issue. But now that they do have a much better understanding of all the risk, so these roughing the passer penalties are out of hand.
Yeah, 100%.
The game has
it's overcorrected,
evolutionized as like from back in the day, and yeah, like you said, it's overcorrected some of these calls. But us as fans, we complain when some of these injuries happen, like some of these concussions and all that stuff. Like we get angry at the concussion protocol, but then we also get mad at some of these bad calls that help prevent that situation. So the NFL is in a very bad spot because they're the bad guys regardless of what happens or what. Same for the referees, regardless if they overcorrect or they don't overcorrect. You know what I mean? So it's a very, very tough situation to handle as a big corporation.
I'll just say this real quick. I mean, you're not going to be able to avoid concussions, though. That's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
No,
you can't.
No, I get it.
A clean hit will give you a concussion.
But if you can help reduce that number, you know what I mean? Like instead of 90% concussions, if we can bring it down to 80%.
But we're only doing that for quarterbacks.
No, I get it. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying it's very hard for a corporation to kind of help minimize or you know what I mean? They're stuck in a whatever.
There's a crossroad here, but we got to figure out what is roughing the pass. My more issue wasn't about concussions. Concussions are going to happen whether it's a clean hit or not. That's not. That is what it is.
It's just like the definition of a good tackle, not a bad tackle or whatever they call it. But other than that. What I took away from this game is how bad our offensive line is.
In the first half.
I don't know what happened to this offensive line from last year to this year. Yes, you can say Lucas Niang's not playing and Andrew Wiley's in, but Andrew Wiley last season he stepped up and he was phenomenal.
Trey Smith was out as well, but
yeah. Once I read that he was out, I was like, Max Crosby's gonna eat.
Shows how important he is.
And you guys were kind of questionable at first, but I was like, he's gonna eat. And sure enough, he fucking ate. And then Chandler Jones on Orlando. I don't know what's with Orlando Brown this year. He's not Orlando Brown. I don't know who that player is. I don't know what happened to him in this offseason.
I think he is Orlando Brown.
I honestly don't know what happened. It was pretty bad in the first half. Yeah, they came alive in the second half with all the Arrowhead coming alive and everything just, going against them and Travis Kelce ripping into their ass and Patrick Mahomes ripping into their ass and they kind of finally got fired up a little bit. But yeah, man, it's bad. And then Spagnuolo's, I don't know what he came into this game thinking. If Devontae Adams was just another ordinary wide receiver. But once we put Snead on Devontae Adams, he locked him down. There was no Devontae Adams through the whole entire, I think, third quarter. Maybe he had one catch or whatever. But the second half, Devontae Adams disappeared until that touchdown to bring him to 29. Mm-hmm. But yeah, MVS was amazing this game. Yeah, he had that one drop, but overall he had a great game.
He was creating separation is what I wanted to see.
Juju was phenomenal in this game. He might not have the receiving yards that everybody's expecting or hoping, but he's helping move that ball down the field, which is what we expect these wide receivers to be. This is what this football team is now. We're no longer that explosive offense. We're no longer that fast offense. We're more of a just moving the ball down the field. Travis Kelce said in one of the drives, just like, I didn't even celebrate the touchdown because I was so tired. That drive was 11 to 13 plays.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what this offense is, and it's gonna be from now on. Now that you don't have the fastest player, one of the best wide receivers in the league, so I love how this team is adjusting to that situation. Is making us like know that we don't need a Tyreek Hill. We don't need that kind of wide receiver press. We don't need that superstar wide receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes can just make it work with anybody. Like you guys, like you guys said, if you give Patrick Mahomes time, it doesn't matter. He'll find whoever's open. He'll find you. So, yeah, the secondary for the Chiefs scared me a little bit at first. The whole entire first half, they were just giving up the middle of the field just to Derek Carr. They were getting anything down the middle. Towards the second half, they started adjusting and they started playing a lot better.
Spags has been good at his second half adjustments this year.
Adjusting that defense is what's really helping. And I mean, look at the second half. The defense only gave up 9 points instead of 20 from the first half. So you saw that improvement, and you saw the improvement on the offense where we picked up 20 points in the second half compared to the 10 in the first half.
Yep.
So both sides got fired up. Once Arrowhead fired up, I think the whole entire team fired up.
They booed for like a half hour straight too. It was unbelievable.
Once we took the lead, Arrowhead kind of like calmed down, and I noticed that drastically too because the volume of the noise came down.
It was the Chris Jones penalty.
The Chris Jones, once that went, you saw that this whole team changed because towards the end of the first half, the offense started getting going.
Yeah.
With under a minute to go, Patrick Mahomes took it down and kicked a field goal. You know what I mean? So
a big field goal. That was 59
once
yarder.
Once that whole penalty, like the whole team just came.
Yeah.
But we have to work on this offensive line if we want to go to another Super, because if we're gonna face teams like the Bills who are really good at pressuring the quarterback, and we're going up against other teams that can have those speed rushers, we're gonna have serious issues. So,
well, and those are all you guys had. Those are great breakdowns and takeaways of this game. I agreed with pretty much everything you guys were saying. Some of the pushbacks I will have, and some of the conversations, in particular with the officiating. I agree that the NFL is kind of in a lose-lose situation because again, you want to protect your players, and if you're not making rules or making adjustments to protect them, I can understand why that is something that they're going to try to avoid because you can have lawsuits, you have all kinds of stuff that you guys didn't do your best. To the NFL's credit, they have done an extensive amount of research on helmets and protection. And you see the way they're like Clyde wears that weird ass helmet now that looks like exactly. Look at Power Ranger, go Power Ranger, and it's because that brings that helmet has brought down concussions by a 13 or 14%. That's a massive drop. And I think since 1999, concussions have gone down. I think 35%.
Oh yeah,
that's humongous. And again, of course, they're protecting players a lot more, in particular, like Trevor said, quarterbacks. The problem, though, is that you cannot overcorrect in this league, because as Trevor alluded to, this is a violent collision sport. You can't take that out of the game. I bet if the NFL could, they would, because they've tried their damnedest.
It's like trying to take concussions out of UFC.
Right. You can't
It's
take
a violent sport.
You can't take the results of the inevitable out of your inevitable sport. That's a part of the sport. It's no different than saying, "Hey, we're gonna start taking out running plays." Well, how the hell are you gonna have
Or
football?
kick returns.
You can't play football unless you have the option of running the ball.
At each other at 20 miles an hour.
It's no different than that. It's going to happen. It sucks.
Yeah.
We never want to see it, but it is a part of grown men who are athletic freaks, the biggest and strongest of them all, hitting each other and running at each other 18 to 20 miles an hour. That's just an inevitable process of the game. So what they're doing is not commendable. It's not something I respect, because you're costing teams and costing players and coaches their jobs. Because if the Chiefs were to lose that game, or another team, let's say, that's on the fringe, but they somehow sneak into the playoffs and have this Cinderella vibe to them, and there's a coach on that team that's up for a contract, or a player that's up for a contract, and they get jobbed by a call like that, The franchise can justify not paying them or not bringing them back because they lost the game because the result is what the result is.
And this is only hurting the NFL's product in my mind because if games are consistently being swayed like that Bucs game and like this Chiefs game almost was and like the Chiefs game against the Colts, if games are continually getting swayed by an official's call on a terrible call nonetheless, a call that's being changed a few weeks into a season that wasn't being called, weeks 1, 2, and 3 like that, that's a problem for the product. I've seen so many people like, I know we're all addicted to the NFL. We're not going to leave the NFL. We're going to continue to watch no matter what. But the fan bases across the league are extremely frustrated with this. It's similar to the catch rule when they were trying to figure out what a catch was. Remember for a couple years there. The sacking situation, you got to give. When you got 350-pound guys running with all their speed that they possibly can into another player, that's their goal every week. That's what they practice for every week. That's what they've dedicated their life to. Now all of a sudden they're going to have to alter the way gravity works when they're tackling someone. You're going to land on people. Yep. There's nothing you can do. We're not playing two-hand touch, and there's not special treatment for these quarterbacks just because they have the ball in their hands and they're throwing the ball. We want to protect them because they're the meal ticket for most of these franchises putting asses in the seats. Yep. They're a football player, man. Yeah. If you get hurt, you get hurt. If you get tackled and someone lands on you, that's a part of the game. You can't. If there's some kind of ill intent and the game's getting real chippy and we see a low hit on somebody or something like that, that's one thing. But what Chris Jones was, a call on Chris Jones was absolutely just unacceptable.
And the worst part about these calls is, again, they're not consistent. You're not seeing the consistency throughout the league.
Right.
I know that every crew does things their own way, but that's a problem in itself. That's one of the biggest problems with the MLB is the MLB has certain refs or umpires that will call certain things strikes and other guys won't, and so it confuses the players because how do I continue my consistency as a player when I don't know what I'm getting from an official each and every night? And so you see guys like when the situation with Matt Ryan and Chris Jones just chirping at each other. Chris Jones gets a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Right. But then you see Max Crosby walk up to Patrick Mahomes and headbutt his ass, and there's nothing. You see Tom Brady getting that on Grady Jarrett, and then you see Patrick Mahomes getting wheeled around and literally whipped to the ground, hits his head, and there's nothing to be said. It's just the inconsistency is the biggest problem, which is why I push back on these calls so much. And to your point, Eddie, about the offensive line, I want to get to that. We'll have our guy Shaggy Shane on momentarily. The thing that I have to push back on the offensive line just a little bit, and because I agree with you, they've not played well. They got bullied a lot in this game in particular. The defense I will give them, though, are two things. One, the beginning of this schedule has presented them 5 defenses that are absolutely great at getting to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see this throughout the season where they're facing 3 or 4 guys on the front 7 that can dominate a game single-handedly. But they've seen that in the first month and some change this season alone. So to the offensive line's credit, they have faced some great front 7 defenses. But to that point, the Chiefs went into Tampa Bay against the best defense they've faced this season and dominated their ass. So it's there. I know that's my point. It's there. Right. So it'd be one thing if we didn't see it at all. I'd be like, God damn, dude, they might really have a legitimate problem.
I think it's more frustrating
the
other way around.
No, I think it's less frustrating because of the fact if you never see it, then you have to deal with the fact that it's not there. But if you know it's there, that means they can get into their rhythm. And with Trey Smith being injured all season, by the way, he's had the ankle injury since week 1. With Andrew Wiley, good player, but not a great player by any means, being a fill-in right tackle for Lucas Niang. With Orlando Brown, to his credit, and trust me, I'm his biggest fan, but I've been criticizing him. To his credit, though, he's had a knee injury all season. So I'm just saying, there are factors at play here. It's not that they suck. They don't suck. This offensive line was one of the best in football, and to their credit even more, Patrick Mahomes, despite all these great defenses we've been facing in the front 7s in particular, Patrick Mahomes is only tied for 21st with 8 sacks. Yeah. So he's not getting sacked a bunch. He's not getting hit a bunch. It's just more notable because the Chiefs play in primetime games, and they've been playing really good teams. So it's more noticeable when he does.
And all the leaders in the league in sacks, most of them tend to be non-mobile quarterbacks outside of Justin Fields and guys like that because Justin Fields holds the ball longer than anybody times 2. Yeah. So he gets himself in trouble all the time. But I'm not saying our offensive line sucks. I still believe we're a top unit in this league. I just don't like the inconsistency because I know they're great. I know what they're capable. It's like you have this expectation. It's like if someone who people are married, you have a spouse. You have this expectation of that person, what you expect from them, even behind closed doors or in front of your face. I want that consistency. I know that they went out there and dominated Tampa Bay's rush, which is far superior to the Raiders' rush. I need that consistency. But my main problem is where they're getting their motivation. I don't want Patrick Mahomes to have to rip into them and say, "Hey, I need you guys. It's up to you if we're going to win this game." That speech should not be happening on a Week 4 game against the Raiders in Arrowhead. That shouldn't be a thing. They should already be up for this game. They should already be motivated, regardless of if Trey Smith's in there or not. if guys are banged up, I understand that, but I mean, we got to be. I need consistency, man. I can't have a tale of two halves every week.
To that though, I love how Patrick Mahomes took that leadership,
Of course.
and rip into their ass because he knew they were playing bad,
Well,
and
he
that
needs them.
offense and
Yeah.
the offensive line knew they were playing bad.
Yep.
They let Patrick Mahomes, rip into their ass because they knew they were having a bad day.
Yeah.
And once that started happening, like I said, once the penalties start flying, once the arrowhead started going, this whole team as a whole just picked up and and started doing what we know this team can do.
Yeah.
Well, Pat wasn't going to lose that game. He was just basically letting them know, hey, do you guys want some credit when we go get this W? You guys been playing like shit.
I'll there is times where good players have bad games. It happens.
Yeah.
And I can say that this offensive line was having a bad game instead of Patrick Mahomes letting them stay down, letting them just be like, oh, it's all right. We'll do something. No, he fucking ripped into their ass and motivated them even more. I love that. That's not a bad thing that your best player rips into your ass, that your quarterback rips into your ass, because it motivates. It's like, fuck. Okay, it's like that tells me that I'm fucking up. So I'm gonna try my best to stop that, or help in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Even if I know my matchup, he's gonna beat me 70% of the time. I'm gonna try my best to slow him down at least.
To your point, that's a great point you guys are both making on this, and it kind of like a nice little motion around the table here, because to that point, it's something I said on Buffalo Fanatics last night with Rico when I was talking. He was asking me, what is the difference between, why do you believe Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback between him and Josh Allen, or anybody for that matter that you want to put up there with Patrick Mahomes? I said it's simple, because Patrick Mahomes doesn't really have any clear physical advantage over Josh Allen. In fact, you can make the case Josh Allen has more advantages physically than Patrick Mahomes does.
Possibly even a bigger arm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Better, bigger, more physical,
better athlete, to be
stronger.
honest.
You can say all that. Yeah,
He's
exactly.
definitely better athlete.
You can make that. Yeah, you can absolutely make that case, and I will listen to you.
Yeah.
But the difference between these two is that in games just like this one, you're down 17-0 in the most frustrating fashion. You find a way to win that game.
It's the intangibles.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't do that. Josh Allen doesn't do that. They don't come from behind like that. Patrick Mahomes has the single greatest winning percentage down double digits in NFL history by 20+%.
It's like Brett Favre
over Tom
with
Brady.
Peyton Manning's brain.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you see Aaron
Scary.
Rodgers in close games, like against the Giants, when things are not going his way, his head's all over, his body language is terrible. You've seen Tom Brady throwing fucking iPads and games are winning. Yeah. Like, you see these guys getting all like that. What is Patrick Mahomes doing? Come on, guys, let's do this. We got this. Let's go. Come on, bro. Like, you see it, yeah.
15 seconds,
I'm
we're good.
here.
15
Like,
seconds.
he's getting his guys up. That Patrick Mahomes is the single reason why. I know we credit I know we credit Daniel Sorensen making the fake punt tackle against the Texans as a reason why. We McCole Hardman with the nice return against the Texans that ignited everybody. No, it was Patrick Mahomes on the sideline down 24-0, telling his guys, we just need one, and he throws that touchdown to Damian Williams. What happens? The Chiefs go on a 51-7 run, dude. A 51-7 run in the fucking playoffs. He is the reason why this team wins games that they should not win. Yeah. So when I talked to my guy Rico from Buffalo Fanatics, I said that's what separates him.
He has amnesia.
Josh Allen has all the ability physically, but he doesn't have what Patrick Mahomes has. Patrick Mahomes has that it factor that no one else in this league does.
It's called leadership. I don't think Josh Allen is the leader of that team.
And that's no knock on Josh Allen. That's just praise to Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly, because this is Patrick Mahomes' team. The Buffalo Bills, they want to be Josh Allen's team, but he is not that leader.
I think he is. I just think Patrick's better at it.
Patrick just has a different level.
I think
Josh Allen is a leader.
I have all the respect.
He doesn't have it like Patrick
That game
does.
last year was what gave me even more respect for, because I liked him a lot coming. I loved him as a prospect coming into the league out of Wyoming. I've loved his talent. I think he is a good leader. I mean, dude, no one else would have beat him that night other than Patrick Mahomes. That's what I'm saying. So, like, I think they're both great leaders.
Ever.
I think it's taken longer for Josh Allen to develop into that, but I think that also comes into the consideration with what stadium doors Patrick Mahomes walked into. He walked into the leadership of Andy Reid. No better place for Patrick Mahomes to go into. Because if Josh Allen walked into that stadium with Andy Reid and he was the guy we took, I'm pretty sure he'd be sitting.
And like
in a
I
great
told,
spot right
like
now,
I told our guy Rico from Buffalo Fanatics last night as well, when it came to Andy Reid, because he was giving Andy Reid a lot of credit, as he should, because he is literally the perfect head coach for Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. They are perfect, but Patrick Mahomes is perfect for Andy Reid. People forget that Andy Reid had a losing playoff record in his career with 0 Super Bowl wins in 19 seasons before he got Patrick Mahomes as his starting quarterback. Since then, he He has 8 playoff wins now with a winning playoff record and a Super Bowl championship. What's the difference? It's Patrick Mahomes. It isn't like Andy Reid all of a sudden became a better head coach in year 20. It was just the fact that he had the best quarterback by far that he's ever had. That's what separates dynasties like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Bill Belichick has a losing record without Tom Brady. And to Tom Brady's credit, he changed the legacy of Bill Belichick. Just like Patrick Mahomes has changed the legacy of Andy Reid. I don't think Andy Reid's coaching today if he didn't have Patrick Mahomes. If he still had an Alex Smith or another retread quarterback, I don't think he does it because it's not worth it at that point. Because guys like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson would be running the AFC. And it wouldn't matter how good the Chiefs are defensively. It wouldn't matter how good their running game is. It wouldn't matter how good their coaching is. Do you have the guy? And the Chiefs have that guy. That's why the Chiefs have hosted the last 4 AFC championships consecutively. That is why the Chiefs are who they are. Now, Andy Reid deserves a lot of credit, but the difference is having Patrick Mahomes at the helm, having that credit. One before we have our guy Shaggy Shane join us, I actually want to give another guy credit that we did not talk about in this first 45, 50 minutes of this show. Jerick McKinnon.
Yep. I brought him up, but
I'm sorry, I apologize. You did.
Slightly.
You did. Second and 17. Second and 17. Andy Reid decides to do the play I hate the fucking most. A draw play. Second and 17. Andy Reid loves doing that. My guy Taylor Witt from It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom said it's the Andy Reid special. He loves doing that play for some damn reason.
It's actually a good call, but
and it worked.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Jerick McKinnon. Not because of the play call, because of Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon got hit within like 5-6 yards of the play, and ended extending the drive by another 15 yards.
Slippery.
I mean, this guy, he's
so good.
To me, that's the play of the game right there, is extending that drive.
This guy knows how to get it.
That is why this team kept Jerick McKinnon. He's not the bell cow. He's not even running back 2 a lot of times.
He's also one of the best chip blocker running backs in the league.
It's insanely how good he is in pass pro. It's insanely incredible. Those little chip plays, giving Patrick Mahomes that extra little split second.
He can read that blitz.
Man, that is why he's on this team. As much as I want to see Ronald Jones on this team, I still do, and I believe he could later in the season. It's a long season. Guys get injured, things of that nature. Guys get ineffective, whatever the case may be. Right now, Jerick McKinnon is the perfect veteran running back for this team because Clyde's the bell cow for the most part. He's getting all the pass plays and all this stuff. Isaiah Pacheco's getting all the opportunities because he's extremely skilled, extremely big, and extremely fast. But this is the perfect. Andy Reid made a great decision in this game. Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid made a great decision in this game. When Isaiah Pacheco wasn't getting anything early, they decided to switch to McKinnon because they needed that veteran presence to work through some of the problems they're having at the offensive line. And it worked seamlessly because he not only, like we said, helped with protection, but made big plays down the stretch. That is why he's on this team. And I think that's why you're going to see again in the playoffs this year, Jerick McKinnon doing those similar things. Because he was a baller in the playoffs this last year. He had 32 receptions in the playoff run last season. Maybe he was an absolute MVP-esque type of player for this team. I don't wanted to give him a lot of credit. Before we have our guy Shaggy Shane on, I don't know if he's jumped on or not, but as soon as he does, we'll get him on. I wanted to go over a couple games real quick for this week 6 slate that I want to get your guys' takes on. So the Browns and Patriots are playing in the noon slate. This is going to be a game that I think is going to be really ugly, but it's going to be fun at the same time because Bailey Zappi, for the quarterback for the Patriots, has really shocked some people, man. He zapped some people, if you know what I mean. This guy is having a legitimate argument to be the starting quarterback for the Patriots. They blew out the Lions last week. A fun story in the NFL. Yeah, 29-0. Bailey Zappi's played really well. Not great, but really well for a guy that is filling in a spread offense guy in college.
They ran all over.
Yeah, ran all over him, but it made Bailey Zappi look better than what he was. It's kind of like the Cooper Rush situation. But nevertheless, they're going to the Browns. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites at home. I believe the Browns are the better overall team right now, even though their defense has been a little shaky. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have had incredible seasons to this point. Jacoby Brissett, despite that horrific decision against the Chargers last week, is the better quarterback in this matchup. I think the Browns are going to win this game. I think they cover. I think they win by 3 or more. It'll be a closer game, a possession-by-possession game because both teams like to establish the run, but the Browns have a significant advantage in the run game because they have the 2 stars in this game. I don't know if was it Stevenson for the Patriots if he's playing or
Ramondre Stevenson's playing. Damien Harris is questionable with the hamstring. I doubt he plays.
Yeah, so I still think that gives the advantage to the Browns. I don't see them losing back-to-back home games, but I do see this one being close. I could see this being like 17-14, 20-17, something like that. But I have the Browns winning.
I believe Belichick owns the Browns damn near every time he plays them. But I think this is just one of those games that the Patriots are missing numerous players. Judon has been playing out of his mind, though. He's been very fun to watch. He's been a wrecker on that defense, but they still have been these are the 2 worst, 2 bottom 3 rush defenses in the league right now, though. So both these teams are going to try to get the edge on each other running the ball, and I'm putting my money on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to win that battle there. Ramondre Stevenson's literally like their only real – he's really good.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson's really good, not only in the passing game but in the running game. I'm taking the experience of the quarterback. Brissett hasn't been great this year, but I'm taking his experience of the rookie. They're trying to tease that Mac Jones is going to play, but he's not. He still has that high ankle he's been dealing with for the last couple of weeks. 3, 4, 5 week injury right there. So I am taking the Browns here. I think it will be very competitive. It could be a higher scoring game than we think. But both these teams are going to try to establish the run. And Nick Chubb's arguably been the best running back in the league this year. I think he has been the best running back in the league this year. I think he's averaging like 98 rushing yards a game right now, maybe more, and a touchdown like every week seems like. So maybe 2. So I just think Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett's going to get after that rookie. I think they're going to do what they got to do to win this game. But I think it will be close, but I do think the Browns squeak this one out.
Yeah, this is going to be I think this is going to be a brawl. I think both defenses are going to, pretty much put the pressure on both offenses because obviously we know that Jacoby Brissett's filling in for their actual starter, and same for Zappy. Zappy, he's filling in for their starter. So I think the defenses should have a great game in this game, and I think it's going to be a close game all throughout. But I do think I'm with Lance. I think the Browns will cover. I think they will beat the Patriots, but it's going to be a close game all throughout.
Yeah,
so,
it's going to be a run fest, man. That's what it's going to be. I mean, I think the X factor in that game probably is Amari Cooper, though.
Yeah.
Because he's the best receiver in this game on both sides, for sure. And he's been playing well this year, and Jacoby's had a pretty good chemistry with him. So if they can get that chemistry going with him, I think that's the X factor there.
And before our guy Shaggy joins us, I actually want to get to an AFC West showdown. We have the Chargers hosting the Broncos. We know the story on both of these teams so far. The Chargers are a banged-up bunch, and the Broncos are just a shit bunch. That's what they are. They're just a bunch of shit.
Banged up as well.
And they're very banged up. Yeah, exactly. They've lost their star running back, one of their best receivers. They've lost multiple defenders, and they've lost Russell Wilson completely. And so this is a game where I think this is a very simple matchup. I think the Chargers are going to whoop the Broncos in this one. The Chargers are just a significantly better team. I think Justin Herbert's going to die. He's been playing unbelievably great this season. Yeah. Even with his injury, he's been I think he's leading the league in passing yards this season. Well, I'm saying one of the two.
Yeah, he's been without Keenan Allen for 3 straight weeks.
He's got one or two fewer touchdowns going into this week than Patrick Mahomes does. I think Keenan Allen's supposed to be playing. I think
he's out actually.
Oh God,
yeah,
4 straight always weeks. Hurt. I swear to God, this guy's always hurt. But I don't think it's going to matter because I think Austin Eckler's going to have another big game. I think Mike Williams, who's been playing very well, is going to have another big game. I think that Justin Herbert's going to have another 300-yard game, couple touchdowns. Russell Wilson's going to try. I know he's going to probably try to throw the ball, make big plays and all that stuff, and I just love how coincidentally all of a sudden he's got this lat tear.
Yeah, he's got a torn lat.
Yeah, supposedly. I love how all of a sudden, but he's doing everything in practice. He's just fine.
Yeah.
I find that amazing. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Chargers big in this one. I think they win by double digits. I could see this one being like a 27-17 or a 30-17 kind of game. I don't really think this one's going to be all that close. Because I think Khalil Mack is going to have a big game. I think that the Chargers get right in this one big time. I know they're still reeling off of that. I know they're playing better after that Jaguars beatdown, and I think they add to the win total here and get to 4-2 against the Broncos in a pretty sound game.
Yeah, the Broncos are a mess. The Chargers are a little bit nicer of a mess. But yeah, this for me is pretty easy as well. I think the Chargers and their 5 fans at their home stadium. I think they go out there and they get the win.
Nice road W at home.
It's easy. I mean, as bad as the coaching's been in LA for the Chargers, I'm still picking the better coach in this situation and the far better quarterback in this situation. And that's usually the deciding factor for me. And I think the defense of the Chargers will get after Russ. That secondary is still really good. I think Derwin James is going to do some work on this game. Yeah, I mean, the Broncos are already not a good team, haven't been all year, and now they're decimated with injuries with Gregory down and numerous secondary players. It's just a mess for them, and I think Herbert should go out there and have a decent game. I don't think it's going to be that much of a high-scoring game because I still have respect for the defense of the Broncos. They're still a good unit.
Well, Raiders dropped 32 on them.
Of course. Yeah. I get that. They ran all over them, and the Chargers are terrible at running the ball.
That's true.
Austin Eckler has not been as good as he is. They have a terrible run blocking scheme, so they can't really get much going. I mean, unless Eckler gets it going in the passing game, which he very well could. I just don't trust the Chargers to have a good game plan, but I do expect them to win.
Yeah,
Chargers win.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go into a lot of details.
Specs.
This is a pretty easy fucking. Yeah. This should be a pretty easy Chargers win.
Go Chargers, go.
Yeah, I mean it should be a pretty. It should be a pretty easy win for them, as long as they go in there with the right attitude. they had the better quarterback. They have the better team. They have the better
head coach.
Head coach.
This is one of the few
That's
times
what I'm
they
saying.
actually have a better head coach.
Yeah, so I think this is a could potentially be an easy win for the Chargers if everything goes right for them. But we know that sometimes shit goes wrong. But yeah, I'm just gonna pick the Chargers on this.
Well, we are honored and privileged to be joined by a guy that I have immense respect for. He's been on the show several times. He's an OG Chiefs fan. He's a I feel like a lifelong buddy of mine, friends for over a decade now, and I respect his opinions. I respect his passion, his zeal, his love for this team. He's always a guy that Clay Windler, our producer, we always call him the Oracle because this guy remembers plays from 1977 and a Week 3 matchup against the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. I don't even know, but that might be the actual matchup. I'm sure our guy will tell us that, but nevertheless, let's give it up for our guy, the one and only Shaggy Shane Williams.
What is good, my brothers? What is good? How the hell you doing, Lance, Trevor, and Eddie, man? Thanks for having me on again. I'm honored, man. It's Chiefs Bills. It's the game of the year, not only in the AFC but the NFL. You know, everybody wants to see the Chiefs and Bills. ESPN tried to get millions of dollars when the schedule came out in May to make it be a Monday night game. The same thing with NBC. They tried to get this game to be a Sunday night game, but CBS said, we're going to keep this game 3:25 kickoff Central Time. The world is going to see the best two teams, in my opinion, in the National Football League, the Chiefs and the Bills, and get ourselves a playoff preview, just a little appetizer before these two meet in January.
Yeah, I like it. I like that, Shane. They should use that as like a pay-per-view, like precursor before this game on Sunday. But before we get to that game, I actually want to go back to Monday Night Football. We started the show talking about this, and I separated the on-field performance from both teams and the on-field performance from Carl Sheffers. And our guy, Clay Windler, who dropped an amazing bomb this week on Red Tribe Cinema with that new video he did. You guys need to go check it out, by the way. It's an unbelievable video. It's an absolute masterpiece. Clay killed it on this new video that he did. And it's sad that we have to sit here and talk about the officiating because this game is such a great game. And you want to talk about the X's and O's. You want to talk about the execution from the players and the coaching staffs. But the focus has been on the horrific officiating we've had this season and in particular in this game. 10,000 feet away, standing away from this game, Shane, what was your overall viewpoint, takeaway on the players and what they did, the coaching staffs and what they did, and the officiating and what they did?
Specifically to the officiating, we don't need to keep talking about, well, Chris Jones had the ball and his left arm was on the ground when he fell. We have all seen that 2 million times. The point I want to say about the NFL is and I said it on my post-game show, but the world needs to give them the benefit of the doubt on this only because throughout previous years, regardless of any critical situations, the NFL has always got it right. They always have got it right when things have happened that weren't right. I mean, every turnover is now reviewable. You know why? Because there were some gaffes. Every touchdown is reviewable because of gaffes. I mean, we've seen it in so many years. I mean, we could sit here and say, remember that play back in 2010 when Calvin Johnson caught the game-winning touchdown in Chicago, then got up and dropped the football and they called it an incomplete pass? Well, there's so many rules. There's so many changes that the NFL has made to get it right. In my opinion, there needs to be. This is Shaggy Shane's opinion, and I think it's common sense. You don't need to be a rocket surgeon or a brain scientist to figure this out. You just need to get it right. If something critical like that happens where it is obvious that Chris Jones did not rough the passer and it was a change of possession, there needs to be somebody from New York, the sidelines, or in the booth that whistles down to the lead referee and say, hey, this was wrong. Here's what happened. It's that simple. It's that cut and dry. There doesn't need to be. Well, technically, he's going by the book. If you see where he fell and then how Chris Jones landed on his butt, no, there has to be somebody above them to say, I understand you made the call by what the rule book says you have to do, but it was wrong. Here's the right call. The NFL, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt because, like you said, Lance, at the beginning of your show, you said it's going to cost some teams probably a playoff game. It's going to cost some teams probably a championship if these rules continue to last, and that will be the black eye. I am giving the NFL the benefit of the doubt to, like they had in previous years, get it right.
Yeah. And then you talk about the way Spagnuolo. I said on the Chief Concerns post-game show with JD and Marcus Dash that I felt that Steve Spagnuolo, to start the game, actually set up his defense for failure with the one-on-ones against Davante Adams. And not just one-on-ones, but one-on-ones with rookie 6th and 7th round picks and Jalen Watson. And then you had Rashad Fenton, who's been terrible this season. I know he's been battling injuries, but he's just not been good. And I felt like that was a setup for failure. So in the second half, he immediately put Snead one-on-one with Davante Adams, and that really changed the way their defense was able to play. Nick Bolton, Chris Jones held down the front seven. They played very, very well in that second half when they could have allowed those things to get in their head from what happened in the first half. But what did you see from the defense on this in this game, and what did you see from Steve Spagnuolo? Is there anything that concerns you, or are you really excited about what you're seeing?
I will say this about Steve Spagnuolo. In years past, in Spagnuolo's era, he has done a great job of disguising his defensive schemes and protecting his cornerbacks, whether it was Charvarius Ward or Bashad Breeland. He has done a great job of protecting his cornerbacks and how he does his defensive schemes and how he plans to show looks to the opposing quarterbacks. I will say this. After Rashad Fenton and Jalen Watson took those back-to-back pass interference calls, Spagnuolo made the adjustments. Bob Sutton would leave his cornerbacks on an island, and they would be exposed. We can remember Phillip Gaines being exposed when Bob Sutton consistently left him on islands. We can remember Orlando Scandrick being exposed consistently when Bob Sutton would consistently leave them on an island. Spagnuolo will not expose his cornerbacks consistently. You will not see, even if Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson are the starting cornerbacks outside and they move Snead in this Sunday, you will not see them consistently be exposed. Now, there will be a play. There will be a play where Joshua Williams looks like a rookie. There will be a play where Jalen Watson this Sunday will look like a rookie. But we can be critical of what Spagnuolo does and doesn't do, but I will say this. Throughout his entire tenure as a Kansas City Chiefs coordinator, he has protected the cornerbacks.
Then we see on the offensive side of things, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce continue what I call the goat-to-goat connection. I think they're the two best to ever play at their positions, and they put it on full display. And it was a really unique game for Travis Kelce because, as we both know, he only had about 25 receiving yards but managed to have 4 touchdowns. And I predicted on our show last week in episode 187 that Travis Kelce was going to have 3 touchdowns. He even surpassed my expectations and my prediction, which is just unbelievable. But looking at this offense as a whole, obviously you want to give Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes a lot of credit. You know, we both know what the narrative was going into this season. Losing Tyreek Hill, people were going to say, oh, this is going to expose Patrick Mahomes. What is their offense going to be without that dynamics? Well, in Patrick Mahomes' career without Tyreek Hill now, he's 8-2. He averages 314 passing yards per game. 23 total passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions with a 107 quarterback rating. And the Chiefs' offense, you know, everybody talks about this explosion and lack of dynamics. What's funny is an offensive plays of 20 or more yards this season and last season through 5 games. In 2021, they had 15. In 2022, they have 23. So losing a player like Tyreek Hill can and will affect you negatively unless you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. That's what makes them different, Shaggy. But what are you seeing from the offense? What did you see in this game? What are your ultimate takeaways?
I think with the Chiefs offense, I want to look at it in totality of the first 5 games of the season because it is important. This is about gelling. Not only did the Chiefs lose Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs lost Byron Pringle. Now, people might be saying, hold on, Shaggy. Tyreek Hill stats were a hell of a lot better than Byron Pringle stats, yes, without a doubt. But there's still the nuances that Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, and Eric Bieniemy, they all have to gel. They all have to find some course of getting in on the same page. And I think, well, let's look at it. The Chiefs have had a bad loss where everything had to go wrong for the Chiefs to barely lose to Indianapolis. The Chiefs had 2 impressive road wins in Tampa Bay and in Arizona. Now, here is my concern with the offense, and here's where you and I respectfully disagree. And I want to get your side of this, Lance, because we disagree on it. The Chiefs have came out 2 home games in prime time in front of the world. A Thursday night game on Amazon Prime And Monday Night Football, in front of the world, the Chiefs have came out against the Chargers and Raiders. And I think Trevor touched on it, just a snippet in your opening statement. The Chiefs fell behind to the Chargers 10-0. Chargers had all the momentum. The Chiefs fell behind to the Raiders last Monday night, 17-0. Unacceptable. Buffalo Bills are coming to town. And while I will not say that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the reason why the Chiefs fell down 10-0 and 17-0, Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to not be the starter. It needs to be Jerick McKinnon, because with the Chiefs facing 1st and 10 at the Raiders' 40-yard line in the second quarter, trailing 17-0, Patrick Mahomes takes a big sack. Now it's 2nd and 17. And we're thinking, wow, we're about to get blown out by the Raiders just like 2 years ago. But what do? They call an inside handoff to Jerick McKinnon, who's elusive, he's quick, he can read the freaking back block when there's a hole on the left side, he's able to read the zone block and hit it. McKinnon took it for 28. He was the spark. On the next snap, the Chiefs gave it to Jerick McKinnon, who ran for 11. Now the Chiefs got their feet underneath them. They can start moving. And that woke them up and really, really put the Chiefs back into the game, because you felt even though they were down 17-0, they had some serious momentum. Why? Because of Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon, I know he's 29 or 30. I know he's had durability issues. But going into this Sunday's game, to answer your question, Lance, and I hope you come back with your talk of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because I would like to respectfully debate it. You know your stuff, and you know your skill. You know what Clyde Edwards-Helaire's skill set is. And he did just have gallbladder removed, and he's supposed to be coming into a healthy season this year. But McKinnon has to be the starter. I'm not going to take away anything from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He is an NFL running back. He should be on an NFL roster. But specifically for the Chiefs and this offense, Jerick McKinnon needs to be the starting running back. What's your take, Lance? Bring it to me.
Well, I first of all, I appreciate that take, because I think it's something that's very thoughtful, and it's something that's pretty accurate if you really look at the way, just in recency, how these guys are playing in that regard. Because I agree with you. I want to see Patrick Mahomes protected as much as possible. And when the offensive line struggles the way they do against some of these pass rushes, I do want to see a guy out there that I know I can trust is going to pick up on the blitzes or pick up on those edges and give Patrick that extended time to make a decision downfield. What I'll say is this. When it comes to this particular situation, when it comes to the running back by committee movement the Chiefs have right now, this is one of those things that I believe will prove to us what I've been saying all offseason about the Chiefs having the best coaching staff, not just the best head coach in the league, the best coaching staff in the league, because they can figure out, pinpoint, and decipher which running back to go with. And we heard Eric Bieniemy this last week talk about, or going into this Bills game, he had said all week they're going with the hot hand. Whoever's playing at their best, that's going to be the guy that gets the majority of the snaps. Well, to your point, Shaggy, that's McKinnon. And I'm okay with that, because I was very much happy and excited to see him get signed back this offseason, because as we saw in the playoffs, he absolutely balled out production-wise, but also he was a great protector of the quarterback, which is something that is imperative for this team to succeed. So when it comes to Clyde, I've been calling him Caveat Clyde now for the last couple weeks, because this guy has 9 touchdowns in his last 10 games. That's incredible. That's very good for a guy who has limited snaps, who shares snaps with other guys, and can still go out there and produce. So Clyde is viewed as the scoring, producing running back on this team. But then you look at guys like Jerick McKinnon, a veteran, knows how to pick up blitzes, knows how to pick up the edge, knows how to go out there and get those little plays that the Chiefs need. Because like we talked about that 2nd and 17 play, he extended the drive on that. I hate those draw plays, but it worked that time, and Jerick was the one that can make it happen. And then Isaiah Pacheco is that guy that has those explosive rushes later in games when the defenses are starting to feel a little hobbled, a little tired. You have this fresh, young, ready to prove himself running back, then go in there and get that burst. So all 3 of these guys are going to play their position and play their purpose, and I trust that the coaching staff is going to know how to pick their spots with these guys like they did precisely this week, because Pacheco didn't have it this week against the Raiders, and the Chiefs coaching staff realized and recognized we need to put a veteran out there and make some veteran plays, and that's exactly what happened with Jerick McKinnon, and I think that's what they're going to continue to do. So I'm trusting the coaching staff. If they decide to move forward with Jerick McKinnon, I'm not upset about that, because I believe that they understand it better than even I do, who to go with on each and every week, because we know it's a matchups game, and each and every week if another matchup presents an opportunity for Clyde, go with Clyde. Same with McKinnon, same with Pacheco.
Right. I agree. I mean, and like Trevor was saying in the opening segment, Orlando Brown bet on himself this season, guys. Orlando Brown bet on himself, and if I think if he's going to sign an extension with the Kansas City Chiefs next season, it might not be as much as he wanted. Granted, there is still 12 regular season games to turn that around, but he's got to step it up because those speed blitzers are definitely getting around him. That's a concern with Von Miller coming to town tomorrow. But it's something definitely to watch. Good talking. Good way to bring that up, Trevor. Thank you.
Of course. And then now let's move to the Chiefs and Bills matchup. The line hasn't moved at all. I don't know if you're a big over-under guy or spread line, money line guy or anything like that, but going into this matchup, as soon as the line dropped, the Bills were the 2.5 favorites on the road. Chiefs are home underdogs for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career. And he's been an underdog, I believe 8 times in his career total. And the Chiefs are 6-2 in those games, and they're 7-0 against the spread. So obviously Patrick Mahomes takes these things very personal. And we know that this is something that I believe Patrick Mahomes is going to use to motivate himself and his team for this game. And if we know anything about Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs in the Mahomes era, they come out more times than not and execute when people doubt that they can. We saw this just a couple weeks ago in Tampa Bay. Everyone was concerned. We saw all these writers and all these other content creators doubting the Chiefs, picking the Bucs to win this game, and the Chiefs went out there and kicked their teeth in and beat their ass. And so I'm not saying that's how it's going to go in this game. We're going to get to our picks and predictions for this game in a little bit, but I want to get your thoughts because, Shaggy, you know this team better than most. You understand the vibe. You usually nails when it comes to how you think this team's going to play and how they end up playing. Being underdogs, first of all, do you think that matters to Patrick Mahomes? Do you think it's going to matter to how they play in this game? Do you see a change in how they play? Because I know you brought up, the Raiders game, the Chargers game. They came out with lackluster energy. Do you think that continues, or do you think they come out here and say, all right, we're about to make a statement to the team that everyone's been crowned as the AFC champion and the Super Bowl champion?
I'd say this. I think it bothers them to be underdogs, of course, because Patrick Mahomes has never been an underdog at home. But I will say throughout the years, I was a season ticket holder, as many of you know, from 91 to 2011, and I still go to a lot of the games before that, before 91 and now. But there's been so many times throughout the years. Let's go back to 31 years ago. Do you all remember 31 years ago? Do you all remember laughter? Monday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills, they were the talk of the AFC. They came to town the heavy favorite against the Chiefs, and Arrowhead was magical. It was the first Monday night game at Arrowhead in 8 years, and the Chiefs dominated them. They went in, blew them out. Granted, they had Neil Smith, Derek Thomas, and Bill Moss, Kevin Ross, and Albert Lewis, shutting down a great Buffalo Bills offense. I think the Chiefs, without me rambling about Chiefs history and being home underdogs, I think the Chiefs will win this game. They will stay healthy. Let's go best case and worst case scenario, Lance, because you and I were 4 rows in the back of the end zone 370 days ago when the Buffalo Bills came here and won rather easily 38-20 on Sunday Night Football. And let's go back to that game and where the Chiefs stand 370 days later. That game, that Chiefs team that lost a year ago was a heavy, veteran-laden team on defense with leaders. You and I were sitting with each other when Anthony Hitchens on the Bills' opening drive totally whiffed on coverage. We saw Tyrann Mathieu throwing his hands up when Daniel Sorensen was missing his receiver on a great 55-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen to his tight end and right in front of us in the end zone. We saw Tyreek Hill drop an interception that went 6-6. Byron Pringle fumbled the kickoff. And even though the Bills had all that momentum with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, the Chiefs were driving down 11. The Chiefs drove right in front of us at the 5-yard line, and Patrick Mahomes tried to hit the running back out of the backfield. The defensive end intercepted it. So now the Bills have the ball as the fourth quarter starts way back in the end zone. You can still feel okay. If we can make a stop, we could get momentum. Long story short, even though the Buffalo Bills had momentum all that game, there were points where we could see, Chiefs make this play on offense or this play, they're going to get back in the game and change the momentum. Now with the mistakes that those veterans made 370 days ago, they're now rookies. Now you got Darius, the number 47, the linebacker filling in for Gay. You got Joshua Williams. You got Jalen Watson. You got rookies that are going to be picking up the slack for these veterans that I'd slate for, except for Justin Reed, who's going to fill in for, obviously, who's took it over for Tyrann Mathieu. The mistakes that I feel, if they make the mistake, if the rookies make the mistakes, and the Bills win because the rookies made the mistakes, I'm willing to accept it because I believe that these rookies will learn from it and know better when they play Buffalo in January, regardless if it's at Rich Stadium in Buffalo or at Arrowhead. Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson and soon to be Trent McDuffie in a week or two when he comes back are going to be the foundation of this secondary for many years to come, along with Justin Reed and along with Brian Cook, who won't be playing. But these kids will be the leaders. You and I had such a bad taste in our mouth 370 days ago because it was veterans making those mistakes in a big game. It was a big game in front of the world, and veterans are making those terrible mistakes. Byron Pringle, Tyrann Mathieu, Daniel Sorensen, Patrick Mahomes threw an interception that fits it in when the momentum changed. Granted, in the bad roughing the penalty call when Fenton had the interception. If we lose, and I'm not a negative Nancy, just hear me out, dang it. If we lose, it's not the end of the world. And people will think this is a lame take, and to some it might be a lame take. Patrick Mahomes eventually, throughout his storybook Hall of Fame career, will eventually play a road playoff game. It's going to happen. We don't want it to. Just like last year, I was saying, well, if we play a road playoff game, it ain't going to be bad. Then we go to Denver, and we're praying that freaking somehow we win a game against Drew Lock, and we did, and we got the home playoff game. But eventually, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play a road playoff game. And you know what? If Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, Justin Reed, the rookies learn from the mistakes, learn from what they're going to see tomorrow, I will be fine. But if we lose tomorrow because on 3rd and 3 at the freaking Bills 40 we punted and the Bills go down and kick a game-winning field goal, I'm going to be mad. If we lose because of coaching, if we lose because we keep falling behind 17-0, that's coaching, I will be critical. But if we lose because rookies hurt us, I mean, they'll learn from it, guys. I know people think we need to get all these veterans to take over, need to sign these free agents. No. Let's let the coaching staff teach these kids. Let's learn from whatever happens tomorrow and move forward. We will be fine. Believe in this freaking team, guys.
A couple more questions for you, Shaggy. That was well said, by the way. On the offensive side for the Chiefs in this game, look, man, I believe that 2021 divisional game here in Kansas City against the Bills was the greatest football game I've ever seen played. It really is. And even people that have no attachments to the Chiefs have said that as well. Sal Palantonio was just on ESPN this morning saying that very same thing. And this guy has watched probably 40 years more football than I have. There's this assumption that the Bills defense, once again, like last season, is the best or one of the top-tier defenses in the league because of how their numbers shape up this season so far. But you look at their schedule this year, I mean, they haven't exactly played a murderer's row of offenses. They played the 31st, the 30th, the 29th, and the 21st offenses, and the 7th, I believe, and the Ravens. And the Ravens were the only team that were able to run all over the Bills with 166 rushing yards and a touchdown. The Bills, I think, are a good defense, but I think that this is one of those games where you could see the absence of their all-pro safety, Micah Hyde, actually costing them, or not having Tre'Davious White still costing them, because they're actually facing an offense that, like they did in previous seasons, expose these inefficiencies. And looking at the fact the Bills don't have a single member on their defense, I know people try to perpetuate Matt Milano as this lockdown late linebacker for some reason, even though Travis Kelce caught the game-winning touchdown against Matt Milano in the divisional round playoff game. There's nobody that can protect that middle of the field against Travis Kelce, who's just seemingly is open every single play on every single drive. Shaggy, how do you see the Chiefs' offensive line attacking the Bills' defense? And do you think the Bills' defense, even with their really good pass rush, can they stop the Chiefs from doing what they want to do? Because as you alluded to, that Week 5 matchup last year, the Chiefs were driving in multiple opportunities. Could have scored over 30 points in that game if some of those things didn't take place.
I feel the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has got to get the ball out of his hands quicker, but he loves to get out of the pocket and make plays, and so I won't knock Patrick for being Patrick. Obviously, he's the freaking man. But I feel like that they will expose those holes in the Buffalo Bills secondary. I feel, man, MBS has got to catch every pass, man. If he catches every pass, we're going to be great. We'll be fine. I like the Chiefs winning tomorrow, 38-34. I like McKinnon to obviously be the man, like I alluded to in the first segment. But I feel that we need to just take advantage, just be ourselves. If the Chiefs be themselves, more importantly, Patrick Mahomes challenged his offensive line, like Trevor said in the first segment at halftime, or when they were down 17-0. I hope the Chiefs challenge their offensive line every day of practice this week, because you can't keep dropping, keep falling behind 10 and 17 up, especially with Buffalo. It's not a good trend like they had now. But we need to start fast, be fast. I'm not afraid. I mean, I know you answered fast offense, but I'm not afraid for the Chiefs defensive side of the ball to blitz. Let's learn. Let's have these cornerbacks learn. Let's have them learn on the fly. Baptism by fire. Only thing I will say technically about our cornerbacks is they're so coached to stay on the man, which they're really good at, but they don't turn their heads. Just turn your head, knock down. Just turn their head. They're so coached, man. Just stay on them. They don't turn around. Just turn your head. I know that's easier said than done, but we need to turn our heads because we got two great physical corners to stay on Davis and Diggs. They're tight end sneaky too, Knox. So we're going to have to hopefully the safety to be careful of covering Knox. You know, when he gets elusive, because we saw him score Sorensen and Tyrann Mathieu last year for that 55-yard touchdown. You know, it's paramount. Andy Reid has to have these guys prepared, and I feel the Chiefs are playing with house money. We're home underdogs, healthy. Well, I know that we have some Trent McDuffie's out and Brian Cook's out, but you're going to take back Mahomes with Travis Kelce and a healthy offensive line with these weapons? Okay. I like the Chiefs. I called it earlier this week on Arrowhead Allies, Arcade Media, 38-34. I think it could be a comfortable 38-34. Like the Chiefs could be up 38-21 and just cruise to a win. It just smells like it. And like I said, this is paramount. This is what we need to take away from this game that nobody is talking about. Regardless if we win, we feel really good about ourselves. If we lose because our rookies were exposed in the defensive backfield, championships are not won in October. Championships are won in January. But I like the Chiefs' chances because they did that thing. They put us underdogs. If you put the Chiefs underdogs at home with Patrick Mahomes, that's not good, NFL. And Patrick Mahomes lives for this. He lives for being home underdogs. And I sneaky like the Chiefs, 38-34. But I think we all do. I don't know. Maybe Eddie's predicting the Buffalo Bills to come to Arrowhead and blow us out because that's what Eddie do. But I love you, Eddie. Never shave. But I'm just saying, I think I like the Chiefs tomorrow. I really do.
And that is our guy, Shaggy Shane. He always brings it, man. Every single time. I could literally just be like, Shaggy Shane's here, and he could just take it. He could take it from there, man. That is the skill set my guy possesses. I respect him so much. I love him so much. He is the most knowledgeable Chiefs fan I've ever met. He's one of the best people I've ever met, and he's a guy that you guys definitely need to follow. He has his own show, The Shaggy Shane Show, on YouTube. I believe he does both pre- and post-game shows for the Chiefs games throughout the Chiefs season, and he does a lot of work. I'm sorry?
This is my pregame, right?
This is your pregame this week, okay.
Yeah, Shaggy Shane, you saw the pregame. Arrowhead Allies and now the Spoken.
That's
love
right.
you, Lance. I love you, Trevor, but let me say this last thing in request, okay?
Yep.
Because I love you guys. You know I'm the biggest Spoken fan. I wore my Spoken t-shirt out. I wore it to work. It's all faded. I'm going to need to get another one. I wore it on trips on airplanes. I've had people behind me say, "Excuse me, Lance." I said, "How do you know Lance?" They said, "I'll read the back of his shirt." But anyway, I need to. I need Trevor to do me a huge Sacramento Kings breakdown before the NBA season starts because he's my lone Kings fan. I grew up with the Kings, Chiefs, and Royals, and the Kings left when I was 15, and it's kind of like the ex-girlfriend you want to monitor that you haven't seen since you were 15 years old. The only one I know that knows anything about her, the Sacramento Kings, is Trevor. And if the Kings were still in Kansas City, it'd be awesome because we have NBA. We would want to know, how can we turn the Kings around, man? What do they need? What kind of leadership? What kind of coaching? How are they doing in the draft? If there's anybody that can do that for me, I know it's Trevor Goodwill. He knows what it will take to get the Sacramento Kings back in the playoff march. He knows. He studies them. He wears their gear. And, for somebody who grew up with the Sacramento Kings, the Chiefs, the Royals, I thank you, Trevor, and I'm looking forward to that NBA Sacramento Kings breakdown. Bring it to me, baby. Bring it!
I got you, man.
That is our guy Shaggy Shane. Like I said, follow him on Twitter at Shaggy Shane KC. Follow him on Facebook as well, Shane Williams. He's always active on all of his posts in the spoken. He does Arrowhead Allies with the Starcade Media as well. It's a Starcade Media family that we're now under the umbrella. And Shane is one of the best guys you'll ever meet. Very interactive, very personable. As you can see, he's got the knowledge as well. And we love whenever he wants to come on the show. He's always welcome because he's a brother of ours, and we appreciate all of his time. Shaggy, give my best to the ladies of the family. Give my best to Chiefs and Ollie. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk soon, brother.
Hey, what I want to say here real quick. I want to thank you guys for having me again on the show. Lance, I'm looking forward to seeing you and your lovely queen next Saturday evening. That's going to be a good time.
Yes, sir.
You guys just keep doing what you do. I enjoy what you do on Chiefs Concerns with Jason Dunn. That is great. I'm glad you added yourself, they took you into that. That is really cool. Eddie, it's great to have you back from Spain. Trevor, keep doing what you're doing. And let's get this. Chiefs tomorrow, 38-34. Believe it. You can't doubt Patrick freaking Mahomes at home. You're doubting Patrick Mahomes at home with Travis Kelce? Are you freaking serious? Bring it on, Buffalo. As Fidel Blocker from Chiefs Tonight likes to say, he needs some Buffalo chicken wings. I will see you guys at all Shaggy Networks tomorrow night. You have a great post game tomorrow with Chiefs Concerns. Until then, this is Shaggy Shane with your preview on the Spoken Live. Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. That is correct. That is our guy Shaggy, the one and only Shaggy Shane. We always appreciate when he's on here, man. He's always got some awesome audio drop for us to use, or he can use on his shows. Regardless, it's never not entertaining when Shaggy's a part of whatever it is you're doing, especially when it has to do with the Chiefs when it comes to football. Yep. And he is correct. I can't wait to hang out with him this weekend as his oldest daughter's actually getting married. I'm really excited to be a part of that. I'm really excited to be there with him as well. Just one of the best people you ever meet. You don't even have to talk football. He's just one of the most engaging human beings. He's this humongous big old teddy bear that you have to love. Even if you have nothing in common with him, he'll find something to find commonality with you. But let's get to the Eddie hour, man. I know Eddie's got some thoughts and some takeaways in the world of sports. I know we like to veer off into other things, other aspects of the world of sports than just Chiefs football, and this is when we do. It's the Eddie hour. What we got today, man?
Well, it's before we kick off the Eddie hour, it is 35-14 Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That game's over.
Yucky.
That game's over.
Yucky.
And it's only the second quarter. So
that sucks.
There's time.
It's not over.
There's time, baby.
All right, man. We talked about Davante Adams, arguably the best receiver in the league as it currently stands today.
Yeah.
Arguably could potentially be the best receiver of all time if he has the rings to come with that, But my question is Aaron Rodgers, obviously we've seen him play this season, and we can definitely see that he misses Davante Adams. And with last weekend, we saw Davante Adams definitely missing Aaron Rodgers. Is there any way we can see this marriage come back alive later on in their careers? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is much older, but maybe in the near future, could we see them coming back together, or is this
Sure, if they start a podcast, there's no way it's happening on the field because Aaron Rodgers will be 39 years old this year, and he's said specifically he's not going to play like Tom Brady does deep into his 40s. I believe him. You've seen, I don't want to say he's shown a disinterest in football, but you can definitely tell that the passion is starting to wane a little bit and I think the way this team's playing right now, offensively especially, and the defense not being nearly what we thought they would be to this point of the season, I think is probably going to push him a little closer to that faster than maybe we expected. And the way his contract is structured, the Packers can get out of his deal and after the second season of this contract and not take as much of a cap hit if they really want to agree to a retirement clause or something of that nature. But to your point about him and Devontae ever playing together again, unless there's some way somehow the Packers were to trade Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders this offseason, it's not happening. Devontae's going to be 30 years old very soon as well. I don't know how much longer he'll be playing either. He'll probably have another 4 or 5 years of football left in him, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that, and I don't see any scenario whatsoever and the Raiders trade what they do and just to give Devontae Adams back or vice versa to where they can manage to get the Packers to agree to trading Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see either one of those scenarios happening.
Yeah, definitely not. Aaron Rodgers could be done after this season, possibly.
Could be, yeah.
We could see an offseason where Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady both retire at the same time. I think that's a possibility this coming offseason, especially if both of their teams fail. They might just be, no, this is it. It's not really worth it. And I definitely believe Aaron Rodgers when he says he doesn't want to play well into his 40s. He's got a lot of, drugs to experiment with, and a lot of things that are banned substances in the league that he can't, partake in while being an NFL starting quarterback. No, I mean, I love my guy. I think the Packers are going to be okay. I know he's struggling a little bit to find some connections with some guys, but I still believe in the Packers down the stretch here. They always typically get it together. But yeah, I don't see any kind of reunion between the two of them. I think Devontae went and got his money, and he's with his guy Derek Carr, going from one Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer apparently. But I think the Raiders will figure it out eventually. Maybe not this season, obviously, but they got a lot of learning to do, and they have he signed a 4-year deal with Las Vegas. So I mean, they got a handful of years, and we don't even know if Derek Carr is going to be the guy coming up these next couple of seasons. We don't. I mean, you can even ask like Raider Nation. A lot of them are split on if they think Derek Carr is the guy or not. So who knows what's going to happen? I think Devontae obviously got the worst end of this deal because he's in a much rougher situation going into the into Patrick Mahomes' division. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be just fine if he plays even for another couple of years or so. I still believe in the Packers, and the NFC is definitely in flux as far as talent goes. So he's still got a chance to go get himself another ring in these last couple of years of his career. So is Tom Brady, but no, I do not see a reunion between Devontae and Rodgers coming anytime soon.
You brought up Aaron Rodgers, obviously not having the connection with his receivers. Is that because it's a lack of trust?
I mean, it's just he's got a bunch of newbies, man. You know what I mean? Like we've seen how long has it taken for Patrick Mahomes to really get like connection with MVS? It's taken 4 weeks, and that's not even a rookie. That's a guy that's been in this league for a few years already. Romeo Doubs is coming along, and Watson, their number 1 pick, has been banged up all year so far, and he's got Randall Cobb, who's been playing well. Sammy Watkins went down. His tight end Tunyon's been in and out with injuries. He's had a lot of things going on, and these running backs are great running backs, but there's only so much you can do. It's just a lot of new things for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers always kind of had that number 1 guy, whether it's Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? So I just think not having that go-to guy right now. Allen Lazard's also been banged up a lot this season. He's been good when he's healthy, but I just think it's a lot of just new faces, man, and this. A guy like Aaron Rodgers is who's all about his timing and rhythm. If they're not in timing and rhythm with him, that's gonna mess up things. It's more about the newbies of the receivers than it is the talent or if Aaron Rodgers still has it or not. He definitely still has it. It's just that it's definitely a trust, and it's just the fact that those guys are new.
I kind of brought this up on our little group chat earlier this week. I believe it was Monday, or I can't remember. No, yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Or after the game, I can't remember. But is Justin Fields a bust?
I don't think it's fair to do it yet because this is only his second season as an NFL quarterback. I don't think it's fair to do that yet because also the fact the Bears have done him no favors in what they've built around him. What I will say though is what he's putting on film as an individual is not impressive. He's a hell of an athlete. Dude can run. I think the Bears are actually leading the league in rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken. So he can run. He had 12 rushes for 88 yards against Commanders. But the problem is when they got in the red zone, he screwed up time and time again. And you can't say it was because of his supporting cast because it wasn't drop passes in the end zone. I know Darnell Mooney had the drop, but it was also a well-contested ball.
It was a good ball, though.
It was a good ball. I'm saying, though, I think it was to Kmet, if I'm not mistaken, his tight end. The double fake in the back, and he had him dead to rights. Totally beat the defender. Beautifully executed play, and Justin Fields overthrew him by about 2 or 3 yards. That wins the game. So although, yes, I do agree the Bears are a terribly ran franchise so far, they do not know offense. They do not know how to build an offense. They don't know how to draft it. They don't know how to sign it. They just historically been awful at doing that. With that said, Justin Fields isn't doing anything to this point to elevate them. He's not showing this promise of, man, if he just gets a couple guys. Because like Trevor was saying about Aaron Rodgers, you know Aaron Rodgers is special. Because even with Romeo Doubs as like his wide receiver one and Alan Lazard and Tunyon, all these other like middle tier at best players, you still see special at times with Aaron Rodgers because he's a guy that can elevate with his amazing talent. I'm not seeing that from Justin Fields yet. I'm not seeing it. Well, the Bears are losing, but man, Justin Fields is willing them. I'm not seeing that yet. And I want to see that because I really like the kid at Ohio State, and I think he's got the ability, he's got the wherewithal, but he's got to play better as an individual before I can sit here and say it's all on the Bears. So to your point, he's not a bust yet, in my eyes, but it's rapidly approaching to that question. I think by the end of this season, if he doesn't play any better, if we don't see any progress, that becomes a very legitimate conversation to be had.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, he's 100% a bust right now, but context matters. I'm still a believer in his raw talent and abilities. I mean, you look at Josh Allen when he first came in the league, who landed in a much better situation. But Josh Allen was rough his rookie in the year, and going into the second year, he kind of started getting together. But he was one of the worst throwers accuracy-wise in the league. Now he's one of the, arguably people are calling him the best in the league now. I think he's got potential here to be. He's just in a really bad spot, man. This is arguably Chicago's one of the worst spots right now for any young quarterback trying to develop. He's got zero. I mean, Darnell Mooney is pretty much just a deep threat. That's all he really is. He's not the best route runner. Doesn't get a lot of separation. He's just a very good deep route kind of guy, and he doesn't really have anything else other than that. Cole Kmet's a decent tight end, but their true talent and their true weapons are the running backs. Yep. Herbert and Montgomery, they're two really good running backs, but their O-line sucks. There's no good protection. Their running blocking is not very good. So, it's a terrible situation for him to even, showcase his talents. He's extremely mobile. The kid can run like Lamar. He's very, very mobile, similar to how Lamar is. Very athletic, and I'm still a believer in him. But this is a terrible situation. That they have the most dead cap on their books right now. After this season, a lot of money will free up, and I do believe they'll go get some free agents. And they'll probably draft well. I'm sure they'll have some high picks. They're going to be probably the worst record in the NFL, probably most likely this year. Them and the Raiders are pushing for that. So, I don't think he's a bust within the context of what he's dealing with right now and the situation he's in. But statistically, he's 100% not doing it. And I think he would say that himself. He's not meeting the expectations he probably has for himself. But I think he's got the raw abilities and the talents. And Justin Fields he showed it when he was in Ohio State, like you said, Lance. That kid is incredible. He's very clutch too, makes big plays. He does have an arm, regardless. People think want to say they're not throwing the ball that much. The kid's definitely got arm talent. He just hasn't been able to showcase it because it's the lackluster talent they have around him in this team and the inability for that offensive line to block for him to give him time. Even though he is holding the ball for more than anybody in this league. That doesn't really tell you the whole story, though. But I don't believe he's a bust. If this happens next year and they give him some weapons and he's still this bad, that's when we can have that conversation. But as of right now, I still got faith in him.
We've seen the Ravens play this season. We've seen, obviously, Lamar Jackson ball week in, week out with the Ravens. Why don't we hear his name brought up more often in the MVP race beside with the Josh Allens, with the Patrick Mahomes, with the Aaron Rodgers? Why is his name not being put out there?
For the first 2 weeks, I thought Lamar was the prohibitive favorite. I'll say this. When it comes to the MVP discussion, I don't get into it until about halfway through the season because I think it's just completely null. Like, it's a moot point at this point because we're not even – we're now maybe a third way through the season. Yeah, this will be the third way through the season.
At least 10 weeks.
Yeah, I think you got to get to at least week 8, 9, 10 to start really deciphering who the MVP is. But to your question, the first 2 weeks, Lamar was that guy. They were playing incredible football. He was playing scorched earth football, and he's still been really good, but he's not been great over the last couple of weeks. Against the Bills, that first half was incredible. He was playing great football, and then he crumbled. Against the Bengals, looked bad all night. He had that really good drive at the end of the game, but they only put up, I think, 19 points.
Yeah, Justin Tucker was the guy in that game.
Yeah, for the first 7 quarters of this season, he was, godly. He was godlike. He looked like a freaking mutant out there. But after that fourth quarter against the Dolphins, when they just squandered that humongous lead,
the defense was terrible.
I think that you're starting to see him press a little bit because he started having less faith in his defense because of how bad they've been in the pass game especially. And so I think that there's just some frustration right now, some miscommunication between him and his receivers, him and the trust in his defense, because we saw this in 2018 with Patrick Mahomes as well. When he knew he could not trust his secondary, there were a lot of times where Patrick Mahomes had to make big plays constantly. Now, he did it more times than he didn't. Lamar may not have that ability with his arm as much as Patrick does, but he's so deadly with his legs that he can still do that. But defenses are now playing that cover 2 scheme and forcing everything up front, where Lamar has to be a little more patient and force him to have to create more with his legs, and opens up opportunities for him to get hit more. And I think that's what you're starting to see is adjustments from the league on Lamar Jackson, because those first 2 games, he was throwing the ball deep, he was doing whatever he wanted, and then you saw the lockdown. Now he needs to adjust to the adjustment. I think he has been discussed about that, but because of the fact that he squandered a massive lead against the Dolphins, he squandered a massive lead against the Bills in recent weeks, and having a lackluster game against the Bills, it's really hard for people to really keep talking to him about it like that. He's got to play better in order for him to stay in that discussion, because guys like Josh Allen, guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys even like Justin Herbert have been playing better football than he has over the last month.
Well, yeah, and those guys are finishing games. They're getting the win, right? Winning is everything. When you put together wins and your stats are what they are. When Lamar's putting up stats, and don't get that wrong, but you got to finish the games. And you got to. Granted, a lot of that, a couple of those losses, they trail for 14 seconds in those first 2 losses, which is an incredible stat in itself. So, but that's more on the defense, and I do believe the Ravens' defense will get better. You know, Martindale's out of town. They have a new system. They're not a blitzing defense anymore. So that adjustment, obviously, I think will take time for that. And there's so much talent on that Ravens defense. They're going to get it together. I believe they just got to stay healthy. Yeah. That's always been the thing for them, Achilles heel for them. They have a good secondary. They have some guys up front that can get pressure still. So I think they'll figure it out. And they looked really good against the Bengals. Granted, the Bengals' offense might not be as good as we think it is. The fluke continues. The fluke theory continues for me as last season. I think they were more fluky than anything because the Bengals have not been impressive so far this year. But yeah, I think it's just if that defense is clicking, Lamar is doing what he's doing, he can be more comfortable and not feel like he has to press. That's when you get the best Lamar, knowing that you have both those things on both sides of the ball, clicking together. I still believe Lamar is 100% in the MVP race. If he can continue to do what he's doing, he's putting up numbers outside of the last couple weeks. Has been a little low for him. For the standard he's set for himself, but I think he's definitely a guy that I think is going to be in the top 3, top 4, and once we reach week 10, week 11 in that discussion for sure.
Matt Rule has been fired after obviously last weekend. Should the Panthers go into rebuild mode and trade their best players for picks to help the rebuild?
100% yes. The Panthers have they do not have a lot of draft picks. They're in trouble right now. They need to trade Brian Burns. They need to trade Christian McCaffrey. They need to trade anybody of real value that is up for a contract. They need or is making big money right now. Christian McCaffrey's making big money right now. He's an expensive running back. DJ Moore should be. I don't think that the Chiefs or anybody like that will trade for DJ Moore because he's pricey, but bad teams could. I could see the Jets or something like that. That's kind of a middle tier team right now trading for a DJ Moore. I could see teams like the Chiefs trading for Brian Burns. He's got 1 year. Yeah, he's got 1 year left on his deal. I think about $14 and $15 million. I definitely think they need to be in totally fire sale mode. This team is a complete and utter failure. They have the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now outside of Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield. They need to completely blow this thing up. They have zero reason not to go a fire sale right now. So, yeah, they 100% need to do that because right now they're arguably the worst team in football.
Yeah, they need a blank canvas, man. This is it's a mess. And poor Chris McCaffrey's just been stuck in the middle of this shitstorm for so long now. Granted, he's created his own with his injuries and everything, but yeah, it's a mess. Baker didn't help a thing either. It's just that poor fan base is going through because they have a solid defense. That defense has been pretty good this year. They've had zero production on the offensive end, and they got weapons, which is crazy. So it's the guidance, the coaching, everything from the top has really just been bad for them. There's a lot of talent on that roster. So that's got to be frustrating as a fan of that team, knowing you have all that talent on both sides of the ball, a fairly good offensive line as well. Giving Baker time to make plays, it has been bad. The coaching's been bad. The guidance from I mean, it's been a horrible experience especially since Baker's been there. I think Teddy Bridgewater was one of the best quarterbacks they had in that system for a while, but that was
that tells you something.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they're playing decent ball then, but yeah, I think they need to do a fire sale. They need to stack up some draft equity to invest and start fresh. And I'm pretty sure that'll happen, especially towards we approach the trade deadline. I'm sure some pieces will get moved. So yeah, it's a mess over there, man. I feel bad for that fan base for sure.
All right, let's move to obviously the baseball is going on. Playoffs are going on. The Dodgers are down 2-1 against the Padres. Should the Dodgers fans be a little concerned of what's happening out there?
There should be a lot of concern. Clayton Kershaw looks like the old Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs, which is not good. As incredible as he is regular season, and he's maybe the greatest regular season pitcher of our generation, he's not impressive in the playoffs more times than he's not. He's not been impressive again. And there's situational hitting. They got shut down last night. I think they lost, was it 3 or 4-1 last night? 2-1? 2-1. I'm sorry. Yeah. They can't hit right now. And this is what I always talk about in the playoffs when it starts to get a little cooler, things get a little tenser. It comes down to pitching. And the Padres have found their pitching. They have found their mojo. And they're playing good baseball. And they hit very well last night situationally. That's the difference. I still think the Dodgers win this series, but right now, man, the Padres are playing confident baseball, and they look like a team that's ready to win. They smell and see blood in the water. Dodgers need to be careful, man. They can go home early, very unexpectedly. It can be about as big of a failure as it was for the Mariners back in the 90s when they won like 112, 114 games and lost early too. They can't allow that to happen, man, because some heads will roll if that happens with this Dodgers team being as great as they are.
Well, yeah, when you got underdogs, especially in baseball, when you're the underdog and you're tasting and you smell blood, and you're going against the big bad favorite in the Dodgers. Talent doesn't always matter, man, in baseball like that. When you get momentum and you're rolling like that and guys are buying in and believing. We've seen that with our own Royals here, man. When we went on that epic run, we were underdogs numerous times. We won in crazy ways because we all bought in, we believed, and we didn't have as much talent as a lot of these other teams, but we figured out a way to do it, and we won. The Padres are a fun team too, though. They're talent as well, but they are the underdog here in this situation. But there's definitely reason to be concerned here. I mean, because you're down 2-1. I mean, you got a couple more chances here to fix this, and it's, it is what it is. But I mean, this is baseball, though, man. I mean, that's the beauty of the game. Anybody can beat anybody in any series. That's sports in general, but especially in baseball, when you get rolling and your momentum's going, man, and guys on the other side of the series are struggling. It's hard to get out of that funk in baseball. It really, really is. It's a very superstitious game. Guys are very superstitious within themselves. So it's hard to get out of that funk once you get in that rut. But I do still believe the Dodgers, if I'm a Dodgers fan, I have faith in the talent and the leadership of this team that they're going to figure it out. They'll get it done. So I still think the Dodgers pull out this series.
Is this a best of 5 or a best of 7?
This is best of 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
After the play-ins or the wild card rounds, it goes to 7.
But I mean, if the Dodgers go down 3-1, it's pretty much a wrap, bro. Like no one really comes back from that in baseball other than the Boston Red Sox. And that's a very rare occurrence. So. Yeah.
Damn, so tough luck for the Dodgers.
Yeah. I think they pulled out, though. I think they figured it out.
Does this look like Mike Tomlin's first losing season?
Yeah, absolutely. This team is an utter failure. And in fact, I'll go as far as say this. I think there needs to be strong consideration that the Steelers find a new head coach. And that's saying something from a guy who's a very pro-Tomlin guy. I think Mike Tomlin's an awesome head coach. But here's the thing. This is what, his 16th, 17th season as their head coach? We see this throughout history. Where after a long, extensive period of time, either the league moves on and goes ahead of you or you're behind, or you just don't have it anymore. I don't think it's that. I think Tomlin's still got it. But I think maybe a fresh set of eyes for this Steelers franchise, a new voice. The reason why I say this isn't just because of the wins and losses right now. It's because of the fact we're hearing guys throughout the locker room calling him out. For a prestigious Hall of Fame head coach like Mike Tomlin, for people to be saying stuff like that, like we talk about with the Patriots right now, with unforeseen, unprecedented things happening within their locker room, guys are speaking out like that, unlike any other time before in Bill Belichick's era. Maybe it's time to move on from Bill Belichick as well. As great as these guys are, sometimes that happens. That's why guys like Andy Reid are so special, because they can be at a place for this long a time and still have the voice, still have the respect and the attention and the eyes and ears of their players. I don't think Tomlin has that anymore. And I know it's easier for that to happen and pile on when they're losing like this, but we've heard this throughout the years, though, with Antonio Brown having the issues that him and Mike Tomlin had. Now, Antonio Brown's a nutcase, but we've heard other players battle on against Mike Tomlin. What's going on?
It's best of 5, apparently.
Best of 5. I apologize.
So if the Padres win again, it's over.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
So, holy shit.
Yeah. So they're up against the ropes for sure. But no, just back to my Mike Tomlin point. I look at this team and I don't see life. I know losing T.J. Watt is a massive loss, but they're getting obliterated almost on a weekly basis now. There's not a lot of life here now. If Kenny Pickett ends up being special, that can turn the tides and save Mike Tomlin here. But I just think that with the Steelers being such a traditional franchise and stuck in their ways, if we're being honest, they held on to Roethlisberger far too long. Bill Cowher, as awesome as a coach as he was, it took forever that guy to finally win a Super Bowl, and it happened to be against a team in the Seahawks that had no business being in the Super Bowl to begin with, and they barely won that. That was one of the ugliest games I've ever watched. So I think they hold on too long to the guys that don't need to be there anymore. I'm not saying they should fire Mike Tomlin. What I'm saying is that now needs to be a discussion that they have of, hey, maybe we need to go offensive-minded at head coach, because that is the way of the league. If you look at the majority of the best coaches in the league moving forward, it's Andy Reid, it's Kyle Shanahan, it's Sean McVay, it's these other guys that are more progressive offensively. Mike Tomlin's a defensive-minded head coach, is a little more archaic, a little more old school, kind of like a Pete Carroll. Great coach, but is it winning you games? Is it getting you back into the playoffs? And to the point, Mike Tomlin over the last 10 years has 3 playoff wins, and the best coach or quarterback he beat was Alex Smith. Yep. And it was in a game the Chiefs should have won. They got jobbed by, guess who? Carl freaking Sheffers, who screwed the Chiefs in that game. So that's my point. I think Tomlin needs to be considered a guy that maybe the Steelers should move on from, as crazy as it sounds. I don't think it's as crazy anymore.
Yeah, I mean, no one is exempt from, scrutiny, and constructive criticism. I think Tomlin, he's been a great coach over his time, and obviously this possibly being his first losing season, which I called, by the way, is that's kudos to him, what he's done in his track record. But there always comes a time, when a new young voice for I think there's a guy in San Fran that's looking to be a good head coach, D'Amico Ryans, a defensive-minded guy that could be really good for the Steelers if that becomes a thing. I think he's a guy that's looking to be a head coach.
Eric Bieniemy?
Oh, of course. But I'm just saying. But I mean, that one, I feel like we talk on that so much, it's like it becomes a thing that we just, of course, he's always a candidate in my mind. But, I mean, there's always, to your original question, I do believe this is going to be their first losing season. I had them at 8-9. So I think that, is a reality that we all just need to accept, and I think that team just kind of knows they're a mess right now on both sides of the ball. And you got Cam Hayward, retweeting things about Tomlin, which is a bad look as well. So, yeah, man, it's a bad situation over there right now, and T.J. Watt just can't stay healthy. Their only real hope on defense right now, the glue guy of that defense, is down all the time. So yeah, I think I had them at 8-9, and that was. At this point, it's very generous. So
no, you're right.
Yeah. All right, 2 more questions for you guys. 2 more, just 2 more. Let's talk about the whole Cam Akers situation in L.A. What is this whole thing about? What's going on?
It's pretty obvious that him and McVay do not like each other, and that they just don't gel. It's got to be a personal matter, because as McVay said at the press conference, he was extremely vague, and he said, well, it's internal. It's not about production, because Cam Akers, to me, is their better running back. I think he's their better overall running back.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's just something that doesn't work with them. And let's not pretend like we haven't seen this before with McVay, because as awesome of a coach as he is, and as much as a player's coach as he is, he's a rah-rah guy and gets his guys motivated and all that stuff. He had a lot of problems with Jared Goff, too. They had personal matters that we don't need to get into, but they had personal matters that got Jared Goff traded. So now they did upgrade at quarterback,
lines were crossed.
But exactly, I think that McVay, because he's still such a young guy, he's only 35 years old. I think that because he's so close in age with a lot of these dudes, and he can relate to these guys, sometimes that can be a negative thing too, because there's not like this headship where it's Andy Reid. I keep bringing him up, but he's in his 60s, so there's this respect, this reverence of he's like a dad, a grandpa, where you have this reverence for him. You know what his accomplishments are. Well, McVay's his cement's still pretty wet, and he's still a mid-30s guy. So some of these guys probably feel like they can chirp and chip at him a little bit more than other coaches that are a little bit older or longer in the tooth. So I think that Cam Akers, I don't want to speak for him because I have no idea what's going on. But based upon what we're hearing McVay say and not say, it sounds like there's just a little bit of a butting heads between the two. And I do expect Cam Akers to be gone in the very near future.
Yeah, with the looming idea of him not being a part of the team, possibly even the fact that that's being spoken upon and there's a possibility, it shows that Cam Akers is probably gone. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know what's going on either. But Cam Akers is still very much a talented running back. Tends to be hurt more than he's not. But when healthy, he's a very good runner of the football. But if I'm being honest, I mean, schematically, McVay has not been able to really get running backs going in a scheme. It's a very pass-heavy offense, obviously, but they don't even throw to the running backs either. So it's like, as a running back, I wouldn't want to be a part of that scheme if I'm being honest. Granted, I'll give McVay all the credit in the world. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. But this Rams team this year is a carcass of what it was last year.
That's the best way of putting it. They're a carcass.
It's terrible. The offensive line, that might be the worst offensive line of football.
That was my Super Bowl pick.
And you can't blame me because they brought back a lot of talent and they're the defending
champs. And they added Bobby
still,
Wagner. I mean, that defense is not as good as it should be either. But granted, that defense is always on the field though.
Yeah,
because the offense is horrible.
Well, and their secondary is bad. Their secondary is bad.
Yeah, but I mean, they're always on the field though, so they're exhausted.
Yeah, Ramsey's not been good at all.
Yeah, they're bad. And Stafford is not right, I think, in the head and physically. Stafford's playing some broken football right now.
He's terrified behind that offensive line.
I think it's the worst offensive line in football. They're bad, man.
But it's all because of the fact he doesn't have the protection and the time. And being an older quarterback, you got to have that. He's not a very mobile quarterback. He can nimble here and there. He's never been a guy that's elusive in the pocket. Exactly.
Yeah. So, that situation with Cam Akers, that's why I sent it to you guys last night. I don't know if you guys had seen it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I had seen it earlier that day.
It's random. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
For McVay to even come out and just kind of like put it out, it's like, personal matters, he's out or whatever. I was like,
okay.
We keeping it internal.
Yeah, I was like, there's definitely some beef there. I mean, I don't know if he slept with his wife. I don't know.
I hate to speculate, but something definitely personal going on.
Personal between them two.
Yeah.
For Cam Akers to be like, I'm not playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like.
I don't know.
No, that's just me making shit up. Don't take it.
Don't go running with that, people, please.
Yeah, Cam Akers didn't go full AB yet.
That's just me talking. But all right, last question. We'll see what you guys think about this.
Boy.
But did the Lakers wait too long to get rid of Russell Westbrook, especially what we've seen in this preseason?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, he's still here.
They had trade opportunities throughout the offseason, and they didn't take them. The Pacers were agreeing to a trade. They had a trade in place, and they got cold feet. Why? Now, I will defend Russell Westbrook in one regard. These little videos that are coming out and trying to make him look like this terrible teammate, that's a load of shit. Because they showed the full truth finally. They showed the full clip. The whole huddle under the goal and everything, and the Lakers are doing that, and he's over there doing his thing. People were trying to make him look like this bad guy that doesn't care. No. They took out 20 seconds of that video. Because the previous 20 seconds, Russell's with all of his teammates. They're doing all the little handshakes, doing little things and all that stuff, warming up with them, having fun, laughing, joking. And he always does that. He's done it for 15 years now, where he goes over there by himself in that corner, gets himself mentally prepared. No different than KG going over there and headbutting the court, the basketball, or Steph Curry doing his little sprint. Yeah. Are any of these guys, or D Wade when he used to do the little pull-up thing on the net? That's his ritual. They try to make this guy look like that because they want clicks, because they know that things like this happen. And this is 100% on the Lakers because they let this continue. This is not going to get any better. It's going to get uglier. Is Russell Westbrook pissed off that his team doesn't want him? Sure. But this whole little fiasco they're creating in the media right now is a load of shit, and it pisses me off, quite frankly, for him, because it's making him look like a worse person than he actually is. He's not a bad guy whatsoever. It's just a really tense situation right now that they need to figure out quickly. He will be traded. It's a matter of when, not if, but they really drug their feet on this, and this doesn't do their team any favors moving forward into the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have definitely shit the bed on this when they put him in a rough, and I love Russ. I just don't think he's the best chemistry guy to win a chip with. He's a great individual player, 100%. That will never be doubted. But the fact they brought Patrick Beverly over here, a guy that they've had a feud with, something two men should be able to get over. But I mean, the fact that they made that move and he already knows that they've been trying to explore trades with him nonstop, and then they bring over Pat Beverly, a guy that they just simply cannot get along. It doesn't even look like they're getting along on their own team still.
I know they tried a handshake or whatever. He called him like, "Come here," and then Russ just kind of like
he was like trying to. Patrick Beverly was trying to play the leadership role and trying to like bring the team.
Russ like
together.
Brian here for that shit.
And LeBron was like, "Bro, you're not. That's not your role, bro." So yeah. I don't like that the Lakers did that to him. That's kind of a weird because Patrick Beverly isn't a necessary guy to be on this team. He's good. He's a solid defensive player, solid role player on the bench, but like he's not necessary for this team to have success in my mind. He's a decent shooter, good 3-and-D guy, but like the fact that the history between him and Russ, they truly do not like each other personally and on the court. You know what I mean? So. It's a bad situation, a bad marriage right now. They need to get out of it. I want to see the Lakers succeed, but I just don't like the chemistry that's going on here. I think it's odd. It's a very tense. I can only imagine we're feeling it. I can imagine what it's like there. So, yeah, man. I do believe Russ eventually gets moved, but it probably won't be as good of a deal as they're looking for in this offseason. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to get for him at this point. But I do think if he goes out there and puts some good film out there and he still looks like Russ, you can win a lot of games with that guy. But I think he does eventually get moved.
And I mean, I see how the Lakers are trying to make Russell work like in that team because now they moved him to the second team or whatever the fuck they call it.
Yeah.
He's
in the backup rotation.
Yeah, to where he's the leader of that backup rotation. See how that works.
And then he pulls a hamstring, and now he's hurt. So congratulations. So his trade value just plummeted even more. Now he's a backup who got hurt.
Yeah, so
it's going well.
And then the way the Lakers are playing this preseason, it's preseason. Don't read into it.
Yeah,
I know a lot of
the Lakers aren't impressive right now.
The Lakers are.
They're not a very good team right now.
They're a bad team.
They need to get a trade in place.
Yeah, they're a bad
They
team.
need to get a Buddy Hield, or they need to get somebody like that that can help
shooters.
spread the court. Yes,
because they don't have
bad.
They're a
100%
bad
agree
team.
with you. 100% agree with you. Right now, they're maybe the 8th or 9th best team in the West. Straight
if that, to be
now,
honest.
AD and LeBron staying healthy will make them the 4th or 5th best team in the West. But that's a crapshoot right now because you're relying on a soon-to-be 38-year-old LeBron James and a 28-year-old Anthony Davis who can't stay healthy to save his life.
They need good perimeter players. They need to go get some shooters and 3-and-D guys. It's a proven solution with LeBron. If you surround him with good 3-and-D guys, he's going to make it work. Yeah.
Why is it that the Lakers have waited this long to kind of see what?
Because they have horrific leadership. Yeah. Jeannie Buss is a moron. Like I know that sounds harsh.
No, it's
she does not know what she's doing. Yeah. And Rob Pelinka, as good as he can be at times with some of the things he does, he gets in his own way because he's more worried about things that don't matter as much as what's going on in the court. That's the problem with the Lakers. They're not. See, I'm not trying to be Mr. Pro LeBron guy, but you guys know everything I'm saying is factual. When you allow LeBron James to do what he thinks is best, the results are always going to swing in your favor.
Yep.
Every team LeBron's been with, they've won a championship. Why is that? Because of what he does on the court and because he knows the game better than most in the front office. So people want to discredit LeBron for things happening on the team because they call him the GM and all that stuff. Well, give him credit, too, for going to the finals more times in his career than he hasn't.
Yeah,
he's gone to the finals. He's gone to the finals in over 50% of his career seasons. There's a reason for that. So maybe trust some of the things he's asking or looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe trust him a little bit because in comparison to Jeannie and LeBron, I would tend to believe that LeBron knows this game better than she does. Far more. She only has her job because of her father.
Yeah, in a handful of months here, this roster is going to look different.
It has to.
You think that's why Magic Johnson kind of was like, yeah, I'm out of here?
I 100% believe it because he wants to maintain the relationship he has with Jeannie because they're like brother and sister. They grew up together practically.
Yeah, that was getting ugly there for a little bit.
So he's like, I got to get out of this because I love y'all too much. I don't want this to bleed into our personal relationships. I got to get out. And Magic made the right decision.
Yeah.
That's tough, but yeah, that's it.
Good Eddie, man. We appreciate you. So SportsCenter showed a stat today that said Patrick Mahomes has the highest quarterback QBR in the league versus zone coverage at 83.6. Second is Tua Tagovailoa at 75.5, and Josh Allen at a distant third at 73.7. I then looked up Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz, and he's currently second in quarterback rating when blitzed with a 122.1 quarterback rating, trailing only Lamar Jackson with a 124 quarterback rating. So I decided to put on Twitter today, I said, scheming your defense against Patrick Mahomes is like picking which color you want your casket to be. because he's going to eat you up either way. We all know that Patrick Mahomes is going to bring it this week. Winning postseason games is what he and the Chiefs live for, but this is as big of a regular season game as there is for a team with Super Bowl aspirations. Josh Allen and the Bills are a worthy opponent and helped the Chiefs create the greatest football game ever played that we saw just this last January. I know that this game matters more to the Bills in more ways than it does to the Chiefs, but this game matters a lot to both. Let's make that very clear here. This win could very well decide who gets that 1 seed, even though it's only week 6. That's not what I believe, but these are two of the few teams in the AFC that have a realistic shot of getting to the Super Bowl, and home field matters. We did see how important that game was to the Bills last season when they came into Arrowhead in Week 5 and beat the Chiefs 38-20. But we also saw something else that a lot of people don't talk about or acknowledge after that game. The Bills losing 5 of their next 8 and the Chiefs going on a long winning streak. We know how heavy the pressure is on the Bills this week, especially being road favorites. And as I told you guys, as I told everybody before the season during our prediction show, the Bills have never had higher expectations. Either they're going to be a team that rises to the occasion and lives up to the hype, or they once again crumble under the pressure and expectation and fall short yet again. Well, until I see them to throw the Chiefs, I'm not going to give them the respect and credit deserving to only to those that can. The Bills are coming off a 35-point blowout at home versus the Steelers, so you know they're feeling good coming into this matchup. Whereas the Chiefs are coming off a closer than it needed to be game versus the Raiders on a short week. But here are the stats that I told you guys before the show that I want to talk to you guys about. Here are some stats that I find very interesting and I believe considered when making your prediction for this game. Since 2019, the Bills are only 6-5. Following a win of 20-plus points the previous week. And since 2018, the Chiefs are 6-2 on games they play on a short week. So the Chiefs have a better winning percentage with less practice and less time to recover and get ready for the next week than the Bills do when they blow the shit out of a team and come in healthy and feeling good about themselves. What have we talked about when we talk about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? I'm on the Buffalo Fanatics podcast last night, and I'm talking to Rico about the differences between these two guys. And as I said, it's the clutch differences and how great Patrick Mahomes is getting his team out of a rut, out of a humongous deficit. But it's also the fact that even on short weeks, Patrick Mahomes delivers. We saw after a week 1 blowout, a short week against a divisional foe who's fully healthy and fully ready to take you on and has spent their entire offseason to beat you. And on a short week, within 4 days, Patrick Mahomes goes over there and outperforms Justin Herbert late in the game. Then we see on a game that we know that the Chiefs have to win from an optic standpoint against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers on primetime television, they go out there and have their best game of the season. Whereas Josh Allen and the Bills throughout their last 3-4 seasons, when they go out there and beat the shit out of a team, turn around and lose to the Jaguars 9-6. And how coincidental is it that the Chiefs have a new defensive line coach? What's his name, Trev? Oh, it's Joe Cullen. You know where Joe Cullen was at last year? With the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that kept the Bills out of the end zone the entire game, losing 9-6. And Josh Allen had one of his worst games of his career. Mm-hmm. Why is the defensive line all of a sudden much better from one year to the next, Trevor, this year from last year for the Chiefs? Is it because they got a bunch of new players and a bunch of new faces and a bunch of great players? No. They pretty much have the same core, just with Karlaftis, who only has half a sack this season. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference? They have better coaching at the defensive line. The guy that knows how to beat Josh Allen in this defense. And the Chiefs beat the Bucs 2 weeks ago by dominating their game at the offensive line and running game, 37 rushes for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bucs are the only team the Chiefs have faced this season that can even compare to the Bills, and the Bucs had the top defense in the league when they faced the Chiefs in Week 4. Best overall defense, best rushing defense, yada, yada, yada. Chiefs dropped 41 points, have their best rushing attack in the last 2 years since they ironically played the Bills in 2020. The Bills currently have the second best rush defense in the NFL, but have faced the 32nd, 21st, 30th, 7th, and 29th ranked running offenses, and the 7th ranked rushing offense, the Ravens, rushed for 162 yards on 33 rushes. That's right under 5 yards per rush. So the only good offense they've played that can run the ball dominated them, and they should have won that game. They were up 20-3. We all watched that game. They were doing whatever the hell they wanted against that Bills defense. And they found a way to squander that one. The Chiefs need to play the Bills like teams try and play the Chiefs, by limiting their possessions, controlling tempo and momentum, and force the pass-happy Bills to try and make bigger plays, which open up the chances for mistakes. And boy, do we all know that Josh Allen makes those mistakes. We saw 3 weeks ago against the Dolphins in Miami. The Dolphins are all banged up. Tua's in and out of the game. Teddy Bridgewater's struggling. You saw Josh Allen throw the ball 63 times with Gabe Davis, with Stephon Diggs, and they scored 19 points. The Bills are too far heavily reliant on Josh Allen. We think that the Chiefs rely on Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen makes up for 86% of the Bills' offensive production. They have zero run game. They have the 8th worst running game in the NFL. And they have a 4-1 record. They blow out teams unlike anybody else. Against the Titans Week 2 on Monday Night Football at home, that game was over after the first drive. You knew the Bills were going to win that game. After they got the offense rolling, that game was over in no time. Against the Steelers, an inept offense, beating the shit out of them. Looks really good. Looks really fun. But the Bills have a losing record. I believe there's 6 or 7 games under 500 in one-possession games in the Josh Allen era. Coincidentally, against the Chiefs in the greatest game ever played, why couldn't the Bills win that game? It isn't all on Josh Allen. Josh Allen played magnificent. Like I said, and I've said numerous times, Trevor, you said it earlier, any other quarterback in the history of the NFL loses that game to Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. It's because of Patrick Mahomes. He outperformed Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen had a magnificent game. Patrick Mahomes had more completions, higher completion percentage, more passing yards, more rushing yards, same amount of total touchdowns, higher QBR, higher quarterback rating.
And the dub.
The game-winning drive. Guys, I don't think this is going to be some big blowout game where the Chiefs win 39-21. I don't think that. I think the Bills can move the ball because the Chiefs have a lot of young, inexperienced guys in the secondary in particular. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to play this game against Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox. They got weapons. Mm-hmm. Jamison Crowder, I think, is going to play.
McKenzie's playing those.
McKenzie's going to play. Like, they have guys that can put up points. Yep. So I'm not worried about the Bills not being able to do things in the air. But to the other side of things that people continuously overlook is the fact that the Bills have an inexperienced secondary for the most part outside of Jordan Poyer. They have a rookie guy in Elam playing in this game. This is going to be the toughest game for him to play. They have multiple guys that are in their second year in the secondary in this game. They haven't faced an offense nearly as effective in the pass game as the Chiefs this season. And it's on the road, in a game, in an atmosphere that we all know Arrowhead Pride is going to bring it. The faithful of Arrowhead is going to bring it in this game because we all know the magnitude of it. And this game matters so much more to the Bills because they need home field in the playoffs far more than the Chiefs do. Because you know why? The Chiefs have the better head coach and quarterback combination, and they can run the ball far better. The Chiefs aren't some great running offense, but they've proven it this season. When they need to run the ball, they run the ball. These guys we talked about it with Shaggy Shane about how all 3 running backs on the team right now have a purpose. They have a plan. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the guy that catches the ball in the backfield and scores touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco, the burst guy in the 3rd and 4th quarters when those defenses start to get a little tired, they start putting their hands on their sides. Pacheco bursts. Yep. McKinnon makes the clutch plays as a big-time veteran player.
Yards after tackle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So these guys have a purpose and plan in place. And I know the Bills' front seven's good. Yeah. But the Chiefs can and will diffuse it just like they have in the past, where they can allow these guys to get some upfront pressure and dump it off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, get the little dump passes. And again, the most imperative part of all this is they have no answer for Travis Kelce. Do you guys know since 2018, Patrick Mahomes not only completes over 72% of his passes against the Bills defense, he averages over 300 yards. He has over 11 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions with a 108 quarterback rating. Travis Kelce in those games has 8 receptions for 84 yards and has 6 total touchdowns in 4 games. He has dominated the Bills, whether they were healthy, not healthy, doesn't matter. He crushes them. Guys, I think we see a replica of everything we've seen from the Chiefs in the past. Because even to Shaggy's point, in the game the Chiefs lost by 18 to the Bills last season in Week 5, the Chiefs had multiple opportunities to win that game. Not keep it close, to win the game. And they squandered Tyreek Hill with the multiple tip drills. Multiple in that game. Dan Sorensen leaving Dawson Knox just wide open down the field. Tyrann Mathieu, his arms had been tired from him being up the whole fucking game because he had no idea where the protection was coming. Ben Neiman played important snaps in that game. This defense is significantly better than what it was a season ago, just in the secondary alone. This is a game that Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill have to step up because they were paid to do that, or they're paid to do that. Juan Thornhill wanting to get paid this next offseason, this is the game to do so. This is a significantly better defense, a significantly more talented defense on the Chiefs side than it was a year ago. And if it wasn't for that horrendous roughing the passer call they put on Frank Clark late in the game when they were pinned down in the back, the Chiefs get the ball back with 11 minutes to go, down a single score. They could have easily won that game, even as bad as it looked at the end. So that's the worst scenario. And in the other games, the Chiefs have dominated the Bills offensively, scoring 42 points, scoring 26 points, even though it was a low-scoring game. Patrick Mahomes was doing whatever the hell they wanted, and they rushed all over the Bills in that game in Buffalo.
That was my favorite win over them.
They dominated. They rushed for over 240 yards.
Loved it.
So what I think the Chiefs need to do in this game, because we all know, again, and I'm going to get your guys' thoughts, Patrick Mahomes is going to do his thing in this game. He's going to have 285, 300 passing yards, probably 2 or 3 touchdowns, but I think this game is won in the trenches. I think the Chiefs run the ball and run it very effectively, shorten the fields, shorten possessions, put even more pressure on the Bills, making Josh Allen have to make even more big plays, and that's when guys like Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill step up, get a big pick, get a big play. Guys like Nick Bolton spying on Josh Allen, making sure he doesn't run out and get those 11, 12, 15-yard rushes, and creating a scenario where Josh Allen has to stay in the pocket and try to create big plays downfield because, again, the secondary is far more significant. This linebacking core is far more significant, even without Willie Gay, than it was a year ago. That's how the Chiefs win this game. Trevor, what are your takeaways in this one? Or what are your previews of this game?
Yeah, so, I mean, this game it's going to be a battle, first of all. I mean, it always has been with them for the most part, but we have had no problem putting up points against these guys. Outside of, if we play mistake-free football and don't turn the ball over numerous times, we have been the better team in every single one of these matchups. And that's not even I mean, outside of that one blowout they had on us, they won by double digits because we always beat ourselves in those situations. We tend to have turnovers or some terrible penalties, but I expect a good, clean game here. And I think our best win so far this season was the one against the Bucs. What we did was winning in the trenches, obviously, just to begin with. But I loved having the 2-3 tight end sets. I love that game. I love that all 3 of our tight ends scored on that game. We got creative, and I think we're going to see some creative play calling that we haven't seen yet this season. Andy Reid always has special plays dialed up for these specific matchups. And I think that we're going to see some running. I agree with you, Lance. I think they held Pacheco back in this last matchup against the Raiders a little bit because maybe McKinnon had the hot hand and they rode him. That's fine. I'm 100% with that. Whoever has the hot hand in this backfield, they're all talented guys in their own way. Give them the ball. And I think this is a game where Pacheco really could, especially in the second half, once both these defenses are kind of, especially the Bills defense is a little worn down, let him go out there and just eat and just run at guys. I think this is a great spot for our running backs. I really do. If our offensive line can do what we did against the Bucs, who in my mind is a more stout defensive line, not taking anything away from this defensive line of the Bills, they've been great all year. And Von Miller is an absolute problem, and he looks just like prime Von Miller, honestly. He's been playing incredible football. But with that being said, I think if we run the ball, we know what that does to this offense. Look what we talked about in the McKinnon run, that 30-yard scamper against the Raiders. That changed the rhythm of this offense. When you can get Mahomes big running plays like that, and defenses know they have to shit. We have a guy just ran the ball on us for 30 yards. Now we have to worry about that. That opens everything. That's any offense, but let alone Mahomes-led offense. When you can get a running game going and you have the offensive line giving him time, and you can run a play-action play here and there, or you can run an option and they have to worry about the running back, or Mahomes running himself, if you're playing too deep and Mahomes is running, because we all know in that playoff game, Mahomes had over 70 rushing yards in that game. He can do that, right? So I think having a more of a heavy, more of a heavy offensive ran like with the bigs out there with the 3 tight ends. I love having the 3 tight ends out there. I love that scheme, and it worked against the Bucs in my mind, who's a better defense overall, especially with the banged up secondary of the Bills. I think that's a great way to attack this defense of the Bills. And as far as our defense goes, I think we need to kind of take a chapter out of the book of what the Dolphins did to them. That bend, don't break. You can let if Josh Allen wants to run for a first down here and there, let him. If it's from their 40 to midfield, let him run that first down. We'll play back and we'll play safe. Don't get burnt because that the Bills' offense is an offense that either depends on Josh Allen's legs or a big over-the-top play to Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. They don't have a ton of yards after catch. They don't play a lot of. They don't scheme a lot of guys open over the middle a lot. And McKenzie sometimes here and there, but it's more of the big play or Josh Allen's running or getting a little check down to his running back. And I think if we play, like I said, that Dolphins defense, what they did was they played that bend don't break, and once it got into the 20s. You tighten up and you take Josh Allen rushing abilities away. You get a blitz on him or you get somebody spying on him, but you kind of bluff everybody out and zone everybody out and make him beat you when things are tight in the red zone. And that's where he struggled. He struggled that entire game getting anything going in the red zone. They could not score. They had to keep settle for field goals. And if we make the Bills settle for field goals and Mahomes is doing what he does, whether it's the blitz, whether it's the zone, whether it's the cover 2, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Mahomes is going to beat it. He's going to figure out a way to beat it. And I trust our offense far more than we can talk about the scoring, who's the better scoring offense. We have the slight edge on them right now. I just trust our ability to go find ways to get creative to get points because the Bills' offense is not that creative at getting points. They're just a juggernaut of a team, and they just impose their will on bad teams. Right? The Chiefs are creative in a way, especially when it comes to the red zone. We are creative. We don't have to. When things get tight, we can find ways to beat somebody on the outside. We can find ways to have a tight end take a direct snap and punch it up the middle. There's so many different ways that we score. It's not the same way for the Bills. So I 100% believe that we have the edge when it comes to scoring in this game, and it's proven over the matchups that we've done with them. But I really, 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 when it comes down to this, what I want to see from this offensively is our offensive line go balls to the wall, have a purpose going into this game from the jump. And these running backs just getting fed, whether it's the passing game, whether it's just straight up, just running and pounding that ball, which we know we've had success over the years doing that against them. We haven't seen we haven't seen this defensive line of the Bills get challenged that much via running game because most teams are trailing against them because they played a lot of bad teams. So a lot of teams are trying to throw on them and making mistakes. So I expect our running backs to get fed. I think this is a game where Pacheco can really, really get going, especially in the second half, like I alluded to earlier. I'm not worried about Mahomes. Mahomes and Kelsey are going to do what they do. They have no answer. No team has an answer for Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey. No team. The best team that had the best chance of doing that was probably the Bucs, and he slaughtered them too. Like there's just not a chance, dude. There's nothing they can do
in the air and on the ground.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So there's just nothing. I don't think any defenses can really have a chance of stopping that duo with the mind meld that they have. Kelsey knows where he's going, and Mahomes is going to put the ball out in the air before Kelsey even makes a break on his route. It's the most incredible thing. And he just can't be stopped. So if these running backs are going, this game is over. If our running backs get going and we're averaging over 5 yards a carry, 4.5, 5 yards a carry, this game's over in my mind. So I think I think the purpose of this game, coaching wise, is to limit the possessions of the Bills because they are a deadly offense. Whether we want to talk about who's the better offense in this, they are a competent foe in this matchup, and I believe we will go toe to toe with them, and it will be a good game. I do believe the Chiefs win this one though, and I think the scheme offensively will be similar to the Bucs game, getting those tight ends involved, maybe some extra blocking up front, a lot of motion, pre-snap motion, but a lot of running, I believe, and I think this is going to be a successful scheme against this defense.
Let's hear it, Eddie. Let's hear it, Eddie.
No, it's a lot of if this offense gets going, Chiefs wise, if this offense gets going, if this offense, runs the ball like we're expecting them to do, it's a lot of ifs for this Chiefs offense because there's a lot of questions still to this point of the season. They lack in the very first half, and then the second half, obviously they come back and they start firing. But if you do that against the Bills, I think it's going to be a little bit too late if you come out second half and try to make up all those points or whatever, however many because this Bills offense can score at any moment. Yeah, Josh Allen obviously being almost equal to Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, better arm power. He can throw. I believe he can throw the ball deeper than Patrick Mahomes. I think they both have about the same accuracy. Obviously, Josh Allen being the better athlete, he can keep that drive going with his legs. I know Patrick Mahomes can do the same, but he does it a lot less than Josh Allen. I think this
because he doesn't have to because the Bills have zero running game.
I think this Chiefs secondary is going to struggle a lot in this game, especially going against Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. I think having two rookies. I think having Fenton now in this game. I know he's been struggling, but I think having him out in this game is going to be crucial for that secondary, especially because Snead obviously going to probably do Stephon Diggs. I think that's what he's done in the past. But you're leaving two rookies with Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis, we saw what he did last the playoffs. So that concerns me a lot, especially in the type of game that this is. This is that war game. This is that you're playing for first place in this game. You're playing for home field advantage in this game. You're playing for everything in this game. I know it's only week 5, week 6, but this game is going to matter a lot going into the playoffs because I do believe these are the two best teams in the AFC, and I think these two teams are going to fight for home advantage down the stretch, and I think this is a crucial game, and I think the Bills going into this week are a little bit more better prepared, especially going after that blowout. I know you brought up that the statistic of the Bills struggling after a blowout. I think this season is different for them. I do think that the Bills are coming in here confident, are coming in here knowing that they very well could beat this Chiefs offense. They've done it in the past when they played last season. Obviously, the playoffs was different, Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes. But I think going into this week, the Bills are the better team. I'm not saying they have the better quarterback or the better tight end. No. It's just that I think they're the better complete package going into this game. And I think the Chiefs going into this game with all the injuries that they're dealing with is such a bad matchup to this point. Obviously, the Chiefs, and like Shaggy Shane said, don't fault these rookie cornerbacks this game if they obviously have a pretty bad game. They're still rookies. They're still learning. So, to me, I think Josh Allen's gonna eat with this secondary. Obviously, we've seen him struggle throughout the weeks. This secondary, we've seen Fenton struggle. So it's gonna be a very close game, but I do think that the Bills come out on top. Now, what Shaggy said is the games that matter though are in January. Mm-hmm. And I think the Chiefs going into the playoffs, I think, would be the better team if they keep on building from the season. And they're doing so. But right now it's just a bad matchup for them this early in the season. So,
who is the pressure on the most, do you think, in this matchup?
I do think it's on Patrick Mahomes. The pressure's on the Chiefs. Why? Why? Because of the whole Tyreek Hill situation. Can they beat the Bills without Tyreek Hill? So and obviously you see it in Vegas with Vegas thinking the same thing, putting Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as underdogs for the first time in over 40 games. So
I mean they have lost to the Bills with Tyreek Hill.
With Tyreek Hill, but I think this is knowing that this is the first game without Tyreek Hill, without that deep threat, without that obviously that getting those style points, I guess you can say. It's totally different, and I think all the pressure is on the Chiefs going into this game for that very reason.
What I'll say that because I appreciate your stance on this and how you really are standing and firm in your belief in how this game is going to go, and that you're bigger on the Bills than I am. I said from the beginning of the season that I felt like the Bills are the type of team that are really good at making themselves look better sometimes than what they truly are as a team. And I still stand by that because of the fact that I think that it has a lot to do with who they're playing as opposed to how they're playing. I'm not saying the Bills aren't a really good team. They're awesome. They're awesome. Josh Allen is fantastic. But when you look at matchups like this, the Chiefs have still significant advantages at all the key positions. If you look at the fact that as shaky as the offensive line has been for the Chiefs at times, you can't tell me with any conviction you'd take the Bills' offensive line over the Chiefs' offensive line, because you wouldn't. Their offensive line is shaky, and they're banged up. You think the Chiefs' offensive line is banged up? Mitch Morse, their single best offensive lineman, has been dealing with multiple injuries all season. In fact, he's missed time because of it, and he's going into this game banged up. They also have a series of injuries as well, again, where they're relying on young cornerbacks to have to take on the onslaught of the Chiefs' offensive attack as well. But also the fact that, to your point about, can the Chiefs beat them without Tyreek Hill? Well, let's look back at that 2020 matchup in Buffalo when the Chiefs ran all over them. They had, Clyde Edwards-Helaire alone had 161 rushing yards on 6 yards a carry. In that game, when the Chiefs won by 9 points, and again, that game was not close. I know it's a 9-point lead. The Chiefs were whooping them the entire game. Yep. Tyreek Hill had 3 catches for 20 yards with 0 touchdowns in that game. And they won by 9 points in Buffalo. So, to that point, I get what you're saying about the style points and things of that nature, but when the Chiefs have shown through 5 weeks to have 8 more plays of 20-plus yards than they did with Tyreek Hill through 5 weeks last week, because of the fact that Tyreek Hill, in some regard, was hurting the team more than helping them through the first half of the season last year, and just the fact that the Chiefs are more of an efficient offense, a better defense, I don't know if I believe that the Bills are the better team coming into this game. I don't believe from a matchup standpoint. Sure, they might have more depth at certain positions than the Chiefs do, but when you factor in the significant advantage that I personally believe the Chiefs have at the head coach quarterback duo, and the tight end that the Bills just cannot guard, and the fact that the Chiefs have proven time and time again this season alone they can run against good defenses, that leads me to believe the Chiefs have more. If it's a tight game, that the advantage is going to go back to the Chiefs' favor at home against a ruckus crowd. Hopefully some decent officiating. If there's decent officiating, I think the Chiefs could have a comfortable lead in this game. And that's going to force Josh Allen to have to throw the ball even more. And again, when you saw against the Dolphins, a defense that also had their own fair share of injuries, a team that didn't have the offensive onslaught that the Chiefs do, with Tua having his limitations already and getting knocked out of the game, you had Josh Allen having multiple opportunities in the red zone to win that game, and he didn't do it. He had an open Stephon Diggs, and he hop-skipped that ball to him. He had an opportunity to run the ball, and he trips up defense Melvin Ingram, knocks him down at the 2-yard line. Those are the plays that win and lose you games. And if this game's going to be close, I'm going to trust Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in that game at home, like I said, with the advantage they have, knowing that they have in their minds, we're the underdogs at home. Are you fucking kidding me? We're 4-time AFC champion hosts here. This has become the Patrick Mahomes Invitational at Arrowhead, and you have us as 2.5-point dogs? There's a lot riding on this game for the Chiefs' momentum, and a lot of pressure heaping on the Bills even more, because now what Bovada and what Vegas is telling us is we're expecting the Bills to go in there and take care of business. That's a lot of expectation for a team that hasn't won anything yet, and I just think that with the advantage the Chiefs have, that's where it's going to be. That's going to be won and lost. I will say this. I don't think this is going to be a blowout game, but I do believe there is going to be a part in this game where the Chiefs are leading by double digits. I do believe that, because I do believe, like our guy Charles Goldman at Chief Wire said in his prediction, I think that the Chiefs are going to have their most efficient first quarter of the season in this game. I think they're going to have an insanely effective game plan that, because of the fact that they circle games on their schedule each and every year. Andy Reid knows what games he needs to unlock the game, the playbook. Yep. This is a statement game, just like the Bucs game. And what do you know? In the statement games this year against the Chargers, against the Bucs, and now against the Bills, you've seen the Chiefs rise to the occasion. I know that game against the Chargers was 27-24, but with a minute and 2 to go in that game, the Chiefs were up 10 points.
Yeah, we took over that second half.
Yes, the Chiefs were up 10 points in that game with a minute to go.
Yep.
They were playing prevent defense to let the clock die down, and Herbert, to his credit, did play well in that final drive.
Sure.
The point, though, is in games where the Chiefs had to answer and had to make a statement in front of the nation, they've done it, and they've done it big. And so that's why I believe the Chiefs are going to do it again in this game. I'm not saying they're going to win this game by 20 points, but what I am going to say is I think it's going to be very similar to that Buccaneers game, where it felt like the Bucs were fighting back and the Chiefs just did what they wanted to do. And in my opinion, that Bucs defense is still better than this Bills defense, especially with Micah Hyde being out. So I'm going to give the Chiefs respect at home in a midday game where 75% of the nation's going to be watching, where Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there and do his thing, and this run game is going to be situationally great.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you that pressure question, because I think all the expectations and pressure are 100% on the Bills.
Yeah,
I think the Chiefs are a household name. They want what we have already. We're the ones that have continually put them to bed when it mattered, and they have yet to overcome that. So I mean, they have everything to prove. We have nothing to prove. Even if we lose this game, we have nothing to prove. So I think this is 100% on Josh Allen to prove himself that he can slay this giant. Has he beat us before? Yes, in the regular season, of course. We had our blunders in that game, and it was what it was. But when it comes down to big moments and them being the Super Bowl favorite since this season has started and has not budged, they are still the Super Bowl favorite. He is still the MVP favorite. You know what I mean? So that's all that pressure is on him, and they've proven nothing in their career. Josh Allen's won nothing in his career, and this is his moment to really kind of, in the middle of the season, make some kind of statement to as the season progresses. This is their statement game against the Chiefs. I don't see or feel any pressure on the Chiefs here. I think we're playing with house money here right now because we are the king of the AFC, and they want what we have. The Bengals obviously have proven so far this season the last year was a fluke, and they need to prove that otherwise until that. We are the kings of the AFC. I think 100% there's 0% pressure on the Chiefs. I don't see any reason why the Chiefs have pressure. Mahomes has nothing to prove here. Kelsey has nothing to prove here. Andy Reid definitely has nothing to prove here. He always has the upper hand when it comes to coaching matchups. So skill wise, this is about as even a matchup as you can get. This is the biggest game of the season for the NFL. This is the biggest matchup for the NFL all year. There's not going to be a better, more anticipated game all year than this one right here in our backfield, in our backyard, and I'm excited to see it. I think the Chiefs win. It's going to be a drag-out fight. I think another one again, like we just had with the Raiders, which we didn't expect, and I don't think the Chiefs expected that one as well. But I think this is one we've had circled. I think we've had a game plan ready for this one since before the season even started. And I trust Andy Reid to come out with the proper game plan. I think we do start out fast as well. I agree with you there. And I think if we win the coin toss to start this game, we better not defer because I want us to take that ball first and go put up 6 or 7 points and let them trail us the whole way and do that bend don't break defense, like I said, and make Josh Allen beat you. Yeah. Don't allow his weapons to beat you over the top plate. Don't allow because that's what's been giving them the juice all year is those deep shots to Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs creating plays. We can't allow that. If we cap that and let Josh Allen just try to beat us with his legs, that's a winning formula in my mind. So.
And I'm gonna agree with James Kirk here. He is saying that Dawson Knox is active, Edmonds is active.
He's banged up, but he's active.
Obviously, I think the Bills only have one player as of right now out, and that is wide receiver Jake Cumro. He's the only player.
And
that's
Ed
out.
Oliver's questionable.
Yeah.
But they are missing two key players in the
Micah Hyde is out. Yeah.
But other than that, it's a healthy Bills team going into this. But like I said,
those are still losses.
But I said I agree with him because he's saying they're rushing him back. I do think because I believe Knox is dealing with a hamstring.
Yeah,
and
he's just getting back.
Yeah,
he's
and
been
rushing him back to this kind of game could be a little dangerous.
Yeah,
I'll agree on that. But I just feel like the Chiefs had the most pressure here. It's just with the whole Tyreek Hill situation, him being out. I'm gonna bring it up again. I think a lot of people are putting that pressure on Patrick Mahomes, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is answering perfectly to that pressure.
We're leading the league in scoring without Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's answering perfectly to that pressure. But going into this game, I think there's more pressure on the Chiefs because we know what the expectation on the Chiefs is. And it's to go to the Super Bowl. That's the expectation. No,
that's the expectation for the Bills this year, though.
No,
They're the Super Bowl
but I'm saying no ifs or buts. I know that the Bills are expected to win the Super Bowl, but I think everybody believes that the Chiefs are in the AFC Championship playing against the Bills. I think the Chiefs have a higher expectation and have had that expectation for the past few years. And now with Tyreek Hill gone, that expectation has not dropped. It's still there. So I feel like that pressure is on Kansas City going into this game because they're
then let me ask a question to that because I understand where you're going with that. That's fair to say that. But you would say first and foremost, I have two questions actually. First and foremost, do you believe the first 5 weeks of the season has dissipated that pressure? Because if this was week 1 and the Chiefs were taking on the Bills like this, I'd be like, you know what, you're right, man. That's a lot of pressure. Week 1 against the Bills without Tyreek Hill, I get that. But they've had 5 weeks now to show that they're the number 1 scoring offense without him. Maybe the pressure, do you believe the pressure is dissipated to that degree?
No, not really, because obviously they're not blowing teams out like they were with Tyreek Hill, if that makes any sense. So the pressure is still there because they haven't won anything without Tyreek Hill, if that makes sense.
True, because that's only because of scheduling.
Why are the Bills favored in this game?
Because I believe they're the better
Because everyone's
team.
expecting them to win,
Yeah,
right?
but I think
So the pressure
they're the
is
better
on
team.
them naturally.
The expectations are higher on the Bills.
And what I'm saying in regards to the question I have, the follow-up question I have is in regards to pressure. Let's say the Chiefs do have the most pressure. In individual scenarios about who has the most pressure, let's say in this scenario, over here to the left, the Chiefs have the most pressure. Would you trust the Chiefs to handle said pressure with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce more than if all the pressure is on the Bills with Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, and Stephon Diggs?
Yes, because we've seen it before.
Okay, so to your point about pressure, does it not matter? Is it irrelevant then? Because if you trust this side more with the most pressure than this side, why does the pressure matter?
I think the defensive side in this game, it's like having those rookies. My biggest concern here is the secondary of the Chiefs.
Okay.
Them allowing the Bills offense to drive the ball, do whatever they please to this defense. That's my concern going into this game.
Yeah.
Obviously, they let Derek Carr cook, but he did whatever he wanted with this defense up until the second half when everybody, like obviously Arrowhead and all that stuff, came into play.
Yeah.
I think if the Chiefs fall early to the Bills and they wait till second half to kind of come back,
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
You can't do this against the Bills. And I feel like the way we've seen, other than the Cardinals game, I think we've seen where the Chiefs have struggled a little bit and then they kick into gear later on into the game. That's where I'm going in with this game. I feel like that's why there's the pressure. I feel like going into this game, you can't allow the Bills to take a lead, because with the Bills, if you give them that lead, they're not going to let go.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going with this whole situation.
That's fair.
And where the pressure is going.
And what I'll say, and the reason why I never brought the Raiders game up in comparison to this matchup is because unlike the Raiders, the Bills can't run the ball. So the reason why Derek Carr, it looked easier for him, and in some regard was easier for him to do what he wanted to do downfield, is because Josh Jacobs was eating the Chiefs defense alive. So unless the Bills are planning on having a replica of what Josh Jacobs just did, it's going to fall on Josh Allen once again to have to win the game with his arm or potentially with his legs. And so that's why, again, when it comes to the pressurized situations, if the Chiefs can handle it better than the Bills could anyway, then I think the pressure is irrelevant in this matchup, because we saw the Chiefs with 13 seconds left go in there and drive, get 40-plus yards, and get a field goal, and then end up winning in overtime against that team. And I think that's a far more pressurized situation than they would be facing in a Week 6 matchup at home against the Bills. That's all I'm saying. So I get what you're saying about the Tyreek Hill being proven himself, the secondary having to prove himself, and in my opinion, the Bills have far more to prove in this particular matchup than the Chiefs do, because the Chiefs have already proven it more times than not, winning 3 of their 4 matchups since Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterbacks for their respective teams. So I'm going to say, scoring-wise, I think that the Chiefs are going to score points in this game. I think the Chiefs are going to score quite a bit of points in this game. I think the Chiefs are going to score 34 in this game. I think they score 4 touchdowns, and Harrison Butker being back is going to pay dividends. Because the Chiefs would be an undefeated team right now if Harrison Butker didn't get hurt in Week 1. I think the Chiefs score 34 points in this game. I think they score 4 touchdowns, like I said, get to 28. Harrison kicks 2 field goals in this game to get them to 34. And I think the Bills have a late rush in the game because the Chiefs are going to play a lot of prevent defense. I think the Chiefs have a 10-point lead in the third quarter. I think they're up 31-21, or let's say 31-20. 31-20 in the third quarter. The Bills have a late rush in this, and they actually outscore the Chiefs in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs end up winning the game 34-27. Trevor, what is your score?
Man, I've been trying to think about a score. I want to say, because I think this game is going to be more, I think it's going to be a similar scheme as far as offense goes, like we did against the Bucs. Like I said, I think there's going to be a good amount of running, but it's going to be very balanced, and it's going to open up the passing game. I'm going to say we score 30 points. I don't think we score too much points. I think we try to limit, I think we have longer drives, I think we play a very efficient game. I think Patrick takes what's given to him, and I think that's the smart play here. I think we run the ball really well and really milk the clock, and we have long possessions, and we own the clock in this game. I think that's the best way to attack this Bills team, is don't let them gain momentum. Do not give them a lead, because no one in this league is better with the lead than the Bills right now. They pour it on you once they get that lead, and they're a tough train to stop. So I respect that about them, and I think the Chiefs understand and do that and respect that as well. So I think really winning in the trenches, running the ball. I think Pacheco gets some work here. I really do. I think he runs really hard, and I think we need a guy like that in this game. This would be a Ronald Jones game if we didn't have Pacheco. Pacheco's kind of been that guy. I think McKinnon and Pacheco are the best runners in this game. I think Clyde does get his work in the passing game. I think he has like 20 plus receiving yards, probably maybe a rush or a receiving touchdown. I think that's and the works as well. I think we win 30-24. I think we win by a touchdown here. I love that we're 2.5 point underdogs. I love that. I'm betting on that as well. So I think our defense plays that bend don't break. I think we Josh Allen is going to get his yards. He always does. Like in that Miami game, he had like 400 yards or over 400 plus yards of offense from himself alone, passing and rushing. But when he got between the 20s, in the 20s in the red zone, when things got tight, he tightened up and he couldn't do it. Granted, it was hot over there and things like that. But this is when our fans are out there roaring and things are tight and you're in the 20s. Yeah, I mean that's a tough situation to be in, and I think is Brian Cook playing this game?
No, Brian Cook is out.
That sucks. Yeah. I like him, and I like him against as far as his tackling ability and his ability to maybe possibly be a good spy for Josh Allen and put some licks on him. I would love to have that guy out there, but I do think our safeties will be out there and be contributing to a nice coverage there over the middle, not letting him get too much work because I think McKenzie is a dangerous guy. Over the middle, if they can dink and dunk, he's quick, he can make plays, but he's also kind of banged up too. He was banged up last week. And Dawson Knox, I don't think is 100%. I think he's going to be on a snap count. So we really got to worry about just getting beat over the top and allowing the lackluster running ability of this Bills offense to kind of eat itself and be inefficient. We got to bank on them being inefficient and being a one-dimensional offense, which is they kind of have been for a while now. So yeah, that's the goal. I think 30-24. I think we win by 7.
I think Von Miller's going to have a good game this week. I think if you put him up with Orlando Brown, and especially knowing how Orlando Brown's struggling against quick edge rushers, I think it's going to be another game where you can put Von Miller on that side, just eat up Orlando Brown. We've seen it week in, week out with Orlando Brown, how he's been getting beat quite often by quick little players. Obviously, Von Miller playing against the Chiefs for pretty much all of his career. So yeah, I think Von Miller's gonna have a great game this game. But yeah, I think Josh Allen's gonna eat this defense alive. I think he's gonna put up his yards. He's gonna put up his touchdowns. I know we usually lock up Stephon Diggs whenever we play against the Bills, but now you have to worry about Gabe Davis. So now you're gonna have to worry about 2 receivers. You can't just block one or the other. You have to worry about 2 now. So this is putting a lot of pressure on the rookie cornerbacks going into this game. That's why I said I think having Felton out this game is crucial for the Chiefs secondary, especially with Cook also out, who's been having a great season so far. So
he got burnt last week, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean he was close. He was close.
Yeah.
But this could be Nick Bolton's game. I'll give him that. I think Nick Bolton, if you put him up against, he can really lay out Josh Allen when he takes off in those routes. I'll give him that. I'll give the Chiefs that they can put the hits on Josh Allen if he does take off, because you can have Nick Bolton or Chanel just go in there and just
back.
Yeah, he's back.
Hit him
back.
So yeah. I have the Bills. It's just going to be a close game. I do have the Bills winning, but I think it's going to be a 35-31 kind of game. They're both going to go out there and score their points. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes knows how to score points. I just think this Bills team is a little bit better going into this matchup. So,
I did want to point out another stat before we get to the key players to our game here. The reason why I'm very confident in the Chiefs in this one is the fact that the Bills have blown out 3 teams this year that had a combined record of 6-8. And then you look at the record they have versus winning teams this season. They are 1-1, and they have an average scoring of 21 points per game. So this is against good teams. Not even having to be great teams, just good teams. They're 1-1. They should have lost that Ravens game. Ravens absolutely just squandered that one. And they're 1-1, averaging 21 points a game in those games. So they're not the same team when they face good teams this year.
I mean, they led for 6 seconds in that Ravens game.
Thank you. And then Lamar throws that horrific pick in the end zone when the guy was wide. Rashad Bateman was wide open in the end zone, waited too long. Point is, those are the numbers. That's how the Bills play. I have a hard time believing they're going to go in here and just blow out the Chiefs or put up massive numbers against a team that is going to be ready ready to go. And the Chiefs, to their credit, beat the Chargers and Buccaneers. They were combined 6-4, and they blew out they actually had a 10-point lead against both teams. Like I said, the Chargers had a late game touchdown, and they were in control of that game for the entire second half, and they beat the shit out of the Buccaneers. I think that the Chiefs, now knowing exactly, like I said, they're 2.5-point dogs at home. I don't like seeing the disrespect, but at the same time, I love it because I know that my team pays attention to that stuff. Key players to the game for me, I think that this is going to come down to, once again, I'm going to do it for the second straight week. I'm going to say Travis Kelce is going to be a key player in this one because I just don't see any scenario that if in fact Patrick Mahomes has time to throw the ball this week, that Travis Kelce isn't going to have a 9-reception, 125-yard touchdown, at least one touchdown in this game. There's no scenario because the Bills, as good of a defense they are, they have nobody that can stop Travis Kelce. And this is back when they had Tre'Davious White. This is back when they had Micah Hyde, and he was still putting up massive numbers. So even in the game when the Chiefs ran for over 200-plus yards against them 2 years ago, Travis Kelce had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. So any way I look at this, I think it's just another massive game for Travis Kelce, and I'm expecting a baller game on the offensive side of things. The defensive side of things, Chiefs signed Justin Reed for a reason. It was to replace Tyrann Mathieu adequately and efficiently. He's the better, stronger, more faster, younger safety. And the Chiefs have faith in this guy. This is a game where I believe Justin Reed justifies being here in Kansas City. They have to have him have a good game because, as we've been alluding to the entire time, the Chiefs have a lot of young, inexperienced guys at the cornerback position in this game. Justin Reed is a leader, a veteran presence in this secondary. The Chiefs have to have a guy that can stop those big-time, long, big plays without Brian Cook there as well. It's going to fall on Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill. So actually, I'll make it as a unified front. Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill on the defensive side, Travis Kelce on the offensive side. Those three guys have big games in this game. Chiefs win this game. Trevor, who are yours?
I've been waiting for a while, but I need a Juju game. I think a lot of the attention, I think they're going to try their best to bracket like the way the Raiders did last week, really try to hit Kelce at the line of scrimmage, really make him work for every single route. And Kelce's going to get his no matter what you do, whether it's touchdowns, whether it's yardage, whether it's moving the sticks on a first down, pivotal first down. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes' mind meld is just something that's special. It's a rarity that you see something like that, the connection that those two have together, and they're just gonna find each other. That always is gonna happen. I'm expecting that every week. I need a Juju game. I need Juju to get it. I think Juju gets a touchdown here. I think a lot of the focus, and we could talk about the Chiefs' corners and the inexperience of the Chiefs' corners, but who name me the corners in the Buffalo Bills right now that are like legitimately good corners? They're not. They have a good scheme right now, yes, but they haven't played Patrick Mahomes. They haven't played the scheme of this offense. And I think Andy Reid's gonna find ways to scheme Juju into good position. He's very, very, very good after the catch. Juju is tough to bring down, and these are not corners. I believe they're going to go out there and be able to stick with him at all points and bring him down when he's wanting to get those extra yards. I think he finds the end zone this week. I think he needs it. I think Juju needs that game. He's been good this year. He hasn't been great by any means, but him and MBS are pretty similar in their stats as far as catches and yards. But I need Juju to score here. I think this is a best. I think if this is going to be a high-scoring game, I think he gets his at some point here. And I just think this is a really good chance for him to eat against these corners. And I think Mahomes finds him for that. So that's my guy offensively. Defensively, I'm going with Chris Jones here. I think this is a statement. And Chris Jones has been balling out of his mind. He doesn't have all the sacks you would like him to. You expected this, but as far as obviously a couple of those were taken away. But the pressures. Yeah. What this guy's been doing on a weekly basis, and you talked about the Bills center, the center for the Bills, Mitch Morse. Yeah. I was drawing a blank. Yeah, ex-Chiefs, a player who's obviously a solid guy, solid personality, good center for this league. Obviously, he's been good for the Bills since he's been there as well. But he is banged up. And I expect Chris Jones just to eat that middle alive. I expect him to really wreak havoc up the middle and the pressures, even if they, bring him on, some stunts and things like that. Spags is going to find ways to get him through that middle, through that defense, that offensive line of the Bills, and I think he's going to really cause issues for Josh Allen, like he has in the past. He's caused issues for Josh Allen in the past, chasing him out of that pocket more early than Josh Allen wants to, forcing him to run into bad situations, forcing him to throw the ball into bad situations. I think Chris Jones is going to be good. And if we want our inexperienced corners to have success, we got to get pressure up front, and I think that starts with Chris Jones. That's my guy. So Juju Smith-Schuster on the offensive side and Chris Jones on the defensive side.
My key players on the offensive side are Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to go off this game. rushing and passing yards, passing touchdowns. This is that kind of game for Josh Allen where he can eat this secondary alive. Obviously, the Chiefs have a great run defense, but obviously every time they play Josh Allen, he finds ways to extend drives, extend plays. So I do feel like he's gonna go out there and he's gonna ball out. He's done it this season, so I feel like that's not gonna change against this defense as well. And then for my defensive player, I think Von Miller. If you put, like I said, if Trey Smith out this game, or is he playing?
He's for the Chiefs.
Yes.
No, Trey Smith's in.
He's starting.
Okay, so
that's why they rested him last week against the Raiders.
So put Von Miller on Orlando Brown. Like I said, we've seen Orlando Brown struggle against quick pass rushers. And I think Von Miller, at his age, he's still quick. He's still very, very strong. I think if you match him up with Orlando Brown, I think he could very well.
And they got Rousseau on the other end. I mean, he's a beast too.
Yeah,
Ed Oliver too.
Yeah,
if he plays.
If he puts that pressure on Patrick Mahomes, help your defense avoid Patrick Mahomes to extend plays with his legs, because once Patrick Mahomes out of the pocket, he's one of the greatest to fucking do it. So Von Miller has to go in there and he has to bring Patrick Mahomes down, and I think if you match him up with Orlando Brown, he's going to be able to do that. So I do expect Von Miller to go out there and have a great game.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's our game preview and prediction. How we see this one going. Let us know on YouTube if you want to go ahead and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you guys think about this one. Do you have the Chiefs winning? Do you have the Bills winning? Do you side with Trevor and I? Or do you side with Eddie? You let us know. But in the meantime, we have one more order of business to attend to. Guys, what's it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or unfriendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's. Mr. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo. Who's holding the L for you this week, and why is it F1?
That's not F1, I'll tell you that. I'm going to give it to Mbappe, Kylian Mbappe. Obviously, French striker, forward, whatever you can call it. One of the best out there currently right now. I wouldn't say he's the greatest of all time, obviously not. He does have a World Cup title. Obviously, World Cup's coming up. We saw what happened earlier in the offseason. He was really close to signing with Real Madrid, but he ended up staying with PSG. And reports came out earlier this week that he's regret his decision of staying with PSG. He feels like PSG lied to him. They betrayed him. It's very hard for me to believe that. I think it's more of a regret. This is more of a fuck. Like, I should have just not listened to the people. He's still young. He's like what, 21 years old. He obviously they I wouldn't say manipulated him, but they convinced him with money, if that makes sense.
Bribed him.
Yeah. And obviously, at such a young age, if you see a lot of money, you're gonna be like, oh shit,
Right.
You have to go put a lot of money instead with a better team and potentially win more trophies.
Right.
And I think he's realized that 2-3 months into that contract. But man, like, at some point you have to understand, like, once you sign the dotted line, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And for you to kind of not publicly come out with it, but reports starting to come out of your team saying that you regret your decision, saying that they betrayed you, blah, blah, blah. Like, man, you had the opportunity to leave in this summer, this offseason, but you didn't. You chose to follow money, which I don't blame you for it, but you could have gotten just as much, maybe a little bit less, but still get great money with Real Madrid, who was this close. He had already agreed to sign with Real Madrid, but PSG came in and said, here, more money. Have you seen the gif of, like, the guy that throws the money on the bathtub? Yeah, so that's pretty much what PSG did, and Mbappe was like, I'm going with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know you're 21 years old. People can say you're still young. I mean, you are, but you have to learn to make your choices, especially in this kind of world nowadays, like how it is and everything. So, yeah, Mbappe, you're going to have to do me a favor and hold this L.
Trevor Twiddle, who's holding the L for you this week?
In an effort to wash out the bad taste from Sunday's blowout loss to the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins have decided to make a change in the locker room. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel told reporters that Tyreek Hill and the rest of the team captains took the ping pong table out of the locker room. To quote Pro Football Talk's Michael David Smith, Tyreek and the captains decided that they wanted to take a step forward with all of their opponent prep with regard to the team and with their preparation with our game plans in general. So he made the move.
This is great leadership right here, guys.
I just wanted you guys to know that. Okay? So he made the move to take the ping pong tables out of the locker room. That to me is leadership. To me, leadership is acting, not talking. There are a bunch of different examples from those guys and that's why they're captains. That's why we rely on them, because it's about solving problems, not complaining about them. They collectively, as a group of players, wanted more time investing during the week on their jobs for Sunday. So instead of just saying it, they did something about it. And that's the whole reason that I really have a lot of love for these guys. Yeah. So I just want, and I'll follow that up with this, just to end this before I start talking about it. The Dolphins added the ping pong table to the locker room because of it encouraged competition and brought members of the team closer.
So when they went on their 3-0 run to start the year, the ping pong table was a positive because it helped create camaraderie and helped keep the sense of competition alive. But now that you've lost 2 straight, now we're going to remove now the leaders of the team are going to decide to come together and remove the ping pong table.
That'll do it. That'll get us a win.
Like, what kind of? It's just, I don't understand like why they're trying to like promote that as some kind of like leadership quality. Like it was a good thing when they brought the ping pong tables into the locker room because it was creating competition. Now it's causing you guys to be distracted, and now that you're losing, you've lost 2 games in a row. Now it's a problem. So we got to make sure that Pro Football Talk and Pro Football Focus or whatever are making a story out of this, because now the pure leadership of Tyreek Hill to talk to his guys and rally the troops in the locker room, say, hey guys, we should probably get rid of this ping pong table. We've lost 2 straight.
Well, then what did Tyreek do after that?
We're distracted. Huh?
What did Tyreek do after that?
What did he do?
After the fact, he streamed. What video game was it after that? Talking about distractions, but you're gonna go home and stream
Twitch stream.
Yeah, Twitch stream video games for hours.
This is what I'm saying. Like the fact that this is a story, like it almost feels like that the ping pong table is a scapegoat for their 2 straight losses.
Yes,
but it was also a pro. Because it created a sense of competition when they're winning 3 straight.
What did the ping pong table do, man? I mean,
they're
chilling in the corner of the room.
That's why the Miami Dolphins had to do me a favor and
hold this L,
because that's such a trash story to me. I was dying laughing when that was an actual story. I thought it was like some like Babylon Bee shit.
I love how Tyreek Hill just came back. Says like, oh no, we just it was bent, so we fucking order a custom design one. What?
Yeah, bro.
That shit was funny.
Yeah.
So Thursday Night Football has always been a rough go for the majority of the time it's been around, because of the product on the field has just been abysmal. Teams hate playing early weeks. Or short weeks, and the product has been really bad this year in particular. For one reason, the NFL scheduled just bad matchups for the majority of this schedule they have on Thursday night.
Are going to be,
but it's also because of Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
Amazon Prime's product has not been good so far this year, and Al Michaels even himself has been hinting at retiring. And how terrible would that be if his illustrious career ends by having to call these shitty ass slates of Thursday night games? But that's not even the worst part. So Amazon Prime has become the Russell Wilson of streaming service, where they're trying way too fucking hard to make people laugh or to get people's attention. And something called a Taron Gilliam is a comedian, and they have this halftime segment now where it's called Pile On. I'm not going to say anything more, and I will make sure and just back off after you guys hear this. This is the entire segment of Pile On from Amazon Prime with Taron Killam.
Tyler Murray, who showed up to Sunday's contest dressed like he had just done mocap for an animated film about the mighty Boss Tones. This answers the question, what if Hillary Clinton's favorite outfit put on the mask? And what's this? A whole new platoon of rookies just got called up? I guess they might become household names, despite the fact that I don't care for most of their names at all. Skylar, Kyler, Bailey, Zappy, those last 2 are the same guy. Who is naming these children? The interns at the CW? Back in my day, we had quarterbacks named Dan, John, Boomer. Oh, God darn it. Bailey Zappy is going to make fun of me on TikTok for saying Boomer, isn't he? Isn't he? I mean, what even is a Zach Wilson? The Jets had Broadway Joe, and now they have Zach's Fifth Avenue. And by that, I mean, I'm just here to look around. I'm not sure I want to buy anything yet. A couple more wins. Maybe I'll try something on, but nothing expensive. I don't want to regret it. And you know what? Yeah, forget it. This whole thing seems like a scam. And most of that metaphor worked.
That's great comedy.
The only people I feel worse for than us that had to watch and listen to that is the guy that had to push the laugh track every single time one of those horrific jokes went through. What even is a Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I don't.
That's one of the most common names in America. Zach Wilson. That sounds like every white guy who lives in a suburb. What? I don't even want to dive into it too bad. Amazon Prime. I mean, they spent so much money on this product, and not only are they getting shit games, but then they're putting. I guess that's a has-been comedian. I don't even know who the hell that guy is.
He's from SNL.
Okay, well, that explains everything because SNL's been
actually
shit
pretty
for
good on
10
SNL,
years.
but yeah.
But that's just bad, man. And if I had tomatoes, I'd throw it at the camera right now in the direction of Taron Killam and Amazon Prime for putting that on. And I'm going to pile on the pile-on with Hold This L. We appreciate you. Yeah. Really bad, really bad.
It's new. Hopefully it gets better from here.
Jesus, maybe they just scrap it all together. Regardless, it has been a fun show today. We've had a lot to get to. We've had our guy Shaggy Shane join us, which we very much appreciate. We appreciate all the comments that you guys have had. Speaking of, if you guys want to hit us up on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Comment on there. We will get to you guys as much as we possibly can on our show. We obviously, you can tell, we have a 3-hour show today. We get to a lot of information. We get to a lot of our takes, and we put it out there, man. We appreciate all of you guys for supporting us. Let your friends know. Tell your friends about me, because that's what we're here to do, man. We're here to pump content each and every week, and we have a lot of fun, especially during the football season. But we're going to wrap this bad boy up because I feel like we've done enough, and we are ready for a football schedule coming up tomorrow's time, and hopefully we'll be discussing some more football this upcoming week because we never know what life holds for us, but we're grateful for each and every time that we get to jump on the Spoken podcast and talk so much football with you guys and so much sports as we do each and every week, and we appreciate Starcade Media for allowing their platform and the opportunities to present our content on their platform. They didn't have to do that, but they presented it, and we accept it, and we appreciate them for doing so. So for Clay Windler, the guy that puts all this stuff together in the back end, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for Shaggy Shane Williams for joining us, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 188 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here to make fun of Eddie for picking the Bills next week,
yes,
we out of this bitch.
Later.